first thing to do is, I guess, is to call the meeting to order. And I will read off the names and just say whether you're here or not. Ken Anderson.
Here.
Larry Hafner.
Here.
Franklin Hahn. Wayne Runigan.
Here.
Ken Vister. So looks like we got 3. My understanding is 3 is what you need to have a quorum. So let's see.
We need to organize.
You want to do
Organization of our,
Okay.
for a nomination for a chairperson is the first thing.
Oh.
I think chair and vice chair, we have to take care of so before we start. If you want, I can continue.
I would nominate you. Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. So I'll be, I guess that's pretty much takes care of that.
All in favor? Aye.
I'll be the chair for the duration. Would roll call, okay.
Did that.
Do a roll call vote on that.
Sure.
You gotta call each name out.
Okay, sorry. Got it. Okay. Larry Hafner,
Here.
Wayne Runigan,
Here.
Franklin Hahn,
You're voting on the motion.
Ken Anderson. Yeah,
Aye.
I'm voting on the motion. Ken Vister
So-
not here. So, okay.
Got it.
Okay, then we also need a vice chair.
I nominate Larry.
Nominate Wayne.
Ooh.
Roll call on that, too.
They need a second on that.
So Ken decides. Don't decide me.
Well, Larry, why don't you continue? Do
Sure,
that. You've been doing,
that's fine.
Thank you.
I'll second for Larry and
Okay.
to be the nominee.
And on the roll call, voting for it, Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Larry Hafner,
Aye.
Wayne Runigan.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll go on. First here, well, yeah, let's take care of the first hearing that we had. That's petitioner Kyle and Julie Agadel, Dana, and Kim Klug. You want to report the right findings?
This was the notice. Okay, the notice is the application was received for the following persons for a variance of setback. Dana and Kim Klug. I'll try to speak up.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. The application was received for the following persons for a variance of setback requirements. Dana and Kim Klug, Kyle and Julie Augendahl. It's for a property in Crooked Creek Township. It's in the northern half of the northeast quarter, section 26, township 102, range 5, Houston County, Minnesota. The variances of the setback requirements are to reduce side yard setbacks in an agricultural district for an agricultural building per section 14.8 subdivision 1. Next variance of setback requirements is to reduce rear yard setbacks in an agricultural district for an existing building, section 14.9 subdivision 1. The next one is variance to reduce toe of a bluff setback requirement, subdivision 29.7, section 2917 subdivision 2 for an existing accessory building. And the last one is a variance to reduce toe of a bluff setback requirement, section 2917 subdivision 2 for a proposed dwelling addition. It's just basically the hearing is an application which will be held at the Houston County Commissioners Room, City of Caledonia, Minnesota. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to submit comments relative to the granting or denying of said application. Comments should be mailed to the Environmental Services Department, 304 South Marshall Street, Caledonia, Minnesota. And they can be emailed to Amelia Miners at CO Houston.nn.us. It must be received by Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. Comments in regard to the petition received by this date will be part of the public record and will be made available for review by the Board of Adjustment prior to the meeting.
Applicants, do you have anything you want to add to the information we have already?
You want to come up and explain what you're doing?
Either
Well,
one.
You got both of them.
Yeah.
Probably both.
Sure.
All three of
So we can.
you.
Yeah,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
can-
Sure.
Sit over there.
Sorry, we sit there for the mics and the camera.
Yeah, so the recording part.
Here are the sellers, Dana Sue, Kim Klug.
Okay.
Kyle, Julie, potential buyer, Untitled,
Okay,
and they're applying for a variance so that they can run their dwelling as stated in their paperwork here.
Mhm.
We have our survey. Land survey.
Mhm.
I believe it's in there that Andy Lushing did it, and we did
Yeah.
find our north line pins. The original pins from 1956, I know that that is something Dee Myrie is concerned about,
Mhm.
but I guess in my mind, if the pins are found, the original pins, that's not gonna change.
He was concerned about his,
Well, our shed being on his land.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. But that's not what the,
No, the survey was found in our favor. We don't have a 50-foot setback, but
right.
okay,
Original pins were found on the survey with Mr. Lutchins.
yes,
okay.
yes.
Do you guys have a copy of the new survey from last week or?
I think that's what we have here.
That kind of was- I think
Looks-
that was
Certificate of survey, yeah.
Yeah, I have a copy of it. It all moved to the east. Is that what they have?
Mhm.
It's page 7 of your packet.
It shows the distance from the shed to the D buyer's line was like 4.9 feet.
Yep, that's what it shows here.
Yeah,
correct, yeah.
That's an existing shed.
correct.
Okay, sure.
And when was that shed put up?
2012. And I came here and I got the permit, and I remember talking to Bob Scanlon, and he told me to flag out where I wanted to put my shed. I had two areas. One was a lower area down by the house. He said that we couldn't do that, and that was fine.
Mhm.
And then I had where my existing shed is now. And I was told I needed a 10-foot setback on the back side. And he came down and approved it all. I mean, I won't say.
So is that one of the
Did-
variances that we're getting is to make
For
that?
that one legal.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, okay,
Yes.
all right.
Indeed, myself, I actually talked to him.
So did he agree to putting that shed there?
Yes, he did. Nothing was in writing, much I hate to say it, was at a birthday party. And I ran into him.
On the
And I
back of
told
it.
him what my plans were.
Yep.
He agreed to it. It's not in writing. I mean, that's the hard part. I get it.
Mhm.
And the land above that shed is pretty much all woodland and stuff like that, or
All.
that's what I was thinking, it was just from what I,
So nobody's gonna be disadvantaged by this.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle's parents' land is on
South end.
south
oh,
end.
okay,
Yeah. And then Lloyd Lambert is way up on top, and then he owns from behind my shed, everything northwest of there. I mean, it's all woodland, so you get the very, very top of the old Middendorf farm.
Yeah, north and then east of it.
All woodland and pretty steep land, if what I follow here.
So we're doing a variance to make that legal or legit, however you want to say it. What was the other one?
To get it recorded as a legal
Yeah,
approved building at that location.
yeah, and that's good to do. That. You want that.
Right.
Absolutely.
You don't want that deal with down the
We want
road.
to comply and just, yeah, because and then the other one would be if we do purchase the house, we want to put a garage on the upper, or
Right.
to the east of the house, which would be close to the toe of the slope.
Yep, I understood that part.
Yeah.
The biggest problem with the existing building is that one shed is if it was to be tore down for whatever reason and replaced, then it would be more that we should be in compliance. That it shouldn't be necessarily rebuilt in the same location.
Because you move further down.
Further out, so that's, I think would be appropriate to
Yes.
put that criteria on
Oh,
to make
right.
it,
If it
in
does,
so
if
it,
a new one gets put up, it has to be.
Have to
yeah,
comply with all
Yeah.
If a storm or something would tear it down. Or
Yep,
or
yep.
whatever, fire. Yep,
that you would try to build into closer to compliance anyway.
correct.
Could be done, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the land looks like you couldn't have moved it a little further if you would have realized that it was a problem.
Yeah.
Is any other questions that we have for?
So the last was reduced to total blast setback for a proposed dwelling addition.
That would be that garage you wanted to add on.
Okay, all right, yeah, yeah.
Steve, you heard you read off two of them. Is it just one on the toe of the slope? Is it issue with
The house is already
that's borderline
within
right
like
now, so-
15 feet of, or something
Oh.
like that of the towards the slope.
Oh, okay,
Bluff setback, I guess, or requirement for an existing building.
okay,
And then there's a little bit for the addition also.
okay.
Mhm.
So there are three parts here on this that we have. Any other questions for the applicants that you can think of?
I don't think so.
I think we're good.
Or anyone else here wanting to talk on this issue? Okay, well, thank you, and we'll discuss it and move on from here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any thoughts, concerns amongst yourself?
Throw them all into one.
We can if we want, or we can separate them. That's up to us.
I would say we should put them all together.
I'll second that.
Okay. What about the request that Dean made? What do we want to do on that?
My opinion is Andy Lutchens is a good surveyor. I've never heard a bad thing about him. It's the shed's in compliance. What if that line ended up a foot into a shed? Because what two surveyors can agree on anything? That's my opinion. I'm good
I
with
think
it.
the bigger one is to put a stipulation that any replacement of the shed would be to be brought into compliance.
Yeah,
As just an added little thing, that if it ever has to be replaced, then it is brought into compliance with whatever the zoning is at the time.
Well, yeah, that's true.
But for now, I would be saying to just leave it.
Yeah, yeah. Yep. And most of the variances are for the coming into compliance.
Right.
Where did I see someplace it's 4 feet off?
4.9 is the distance off of the line, so it's a significant variance.
It is.
I mean, even
Well,
We've had some that where the building has been right on the property line when we've had after a split, so.
where did I see that? Where's the guy? Are you familiar with the surveyor?
I don't know the surveyor at all. I mean, I've never heard of
Andy
him.
Lutchens,
Yeah,
I'm familiar with him.
I mean, he's a certified
Yes.
surveyor. Yeah, all right, well, I don't know, why would we argue about it if they're 4 feet, when you're 5 feet off the line? And if they get another survey that disagrees with that, then we'll have to deal with that, but it's not ideal that it was that it was allowed to be put there, but
Right.
it is what it is, and not something that either one of these people initiated. Yes, it is, huh?
Well, it
But
is.
but you were compliant at the
You were
time.
told it was in compliance.
Bob told me the farther I put it up, the better.
Is that right?
I wanted it closer to my house. I'm 100 yards away. I don't like walking up that hill. I'm sorry, but I quite honestly wanted it closer.
Yeah, well, I think that's, you're doing the right thing. You're getting the variance to make it as legal as it can be.
Right.
And the other one, the variance is to put an addition on the house. There's about the garage, right?
Yep.
Correct.
I mean, that's not close to anything, is it?
No.
Oh, because.
The toe of the bluff.
Okay,
The
the
slopes
bluff.
around that area are
Okay.
pretty much any building in there. It's going to be a problem. A lot of places
Okay,
there.
all right.
Last year, and I made sure that I cut a ditch that goes around.
For drainage.
Pardon? Yes,
Yeah.
drainage, yes, correct.
Yeah, I don't see any, like I said, I don't know anybody.
Should we go on to the findings?
Sure, and I think we should.
We'll do all of them together and read them and try to do it the same way. We'll just do agree with, if we agree, we'll agree with everything all together.
It's fine.
Read the public comment, get it on record.
Oh, good.
Oh, sure.
15.
Yes, there's a letter from Nethercutt Schreiber Attorneys. It's regarding the Klug setback variance application. It says, "Dear members of Board of Adjustment, I submit these comments in response to the notice of public hearing on a petition from Dana and Kim Klug and Kyle and Julie Augendahl on behalf of neighbor Dean Myrie. Mr. Myrie has concerns over whether the subject building of the requested variance is encroaching on his property. We had the opportunity to review the notice and a recent survey conducted by Andy Lutchens of the subject premises. The survey was received by us on 1/18/22 as shared by the county surveyor. Although Mr. Myrie respects Mr. Lutchens' work and reputation as a surveyor, he desires to get a second opinion on his interpretation of the historic real estate records and plans to promptly pursue a second opinion. By this response, he is asking the Board of Adjustment to postpone the final decision on the variance application until the next Board of Adjustment meeting, so he has time to have a professional review the survey and historical records in greater detail. Thank you for considering this request as you review the application. Greg Schreiber."
Any comments? Now let's move on to the findings.
Well, I think we need, yeah, we need to deal with this. Should have had this. I'm trying to think of, does this have any merit? I mean,
Probably the basis that he's going by is looking at Beacon maps, which it puts, is so far off on this
Oh,
property.
yeah, if his beacon is his reference. But you said you found
The original pins are found.
how far away were they?
I have a big map of it, you wanna see it?
They did request a survey as well.
They,
They want to bring in another surveyor. And that's why I said,
But the pins aren't gonna move, right?
right,
You wanna see that?
sure. Why does he think they're wrong? Does he have any?
Not sure what the
that?
reasoning for worrying about it. That's,
Yeah, so he can have it like right here or
Yeah.
something, but he found that band, and he found that band.
Okay,
So that's straight line Canada.
sure, okay.
And the two pins match the description. Ideally.
Yeah,
Excuse me?
I was there.
The two pins match the description, okay.
Yeah,
He's got the original 18.
this north line is the same as Beacon has it.
He found
It was just the east line that was
Okay.
off because they originally had it going like across the highway.
yeah,
So this north line is the same as it was in 50.
I went on
60 or
Beacon and looked, and
70.
it just was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, and they do what is it, a cover there, something. And they say that's not,
You can't use it for illegal.
yeah,
yeah.
No legal description is in there.
That's why I wanted it surveyed before this.
Right, and that's very appropriate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe leave it up here for you if you want to.
No, that's,
I think that's-
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Well. What kind of timeline do you have? Is that gonna, if we would delay this a month, would that mess up what you're trying to do?
Technically, we were hoping to sign by roughly the middle of February, roughly.
The sales contract?
Yeah,
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, interest rates and everything are going up and we had it all set, you know.
Yep.
Tonight was the night where we were gonna know at least. With all the banking stuff we've been doing and.
Because the appraisal's gotta come in as well, and that might take another 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
I just figured one that cost, I mean, it could cost me a lot of money to push that back a month. Interest rates going up by the time you lock in 0.5% could be
But they said
30 grand at the end or whatever, you know.
And they said today by March, they're talking about going up to 2.5%.
I think the bigger one is if just put a stipulation on that other shed that if there is, or it's not can't be replaced at that
Yeah,
location.
that's true. I don't know if we
basically-
need to put that on there because
That's, yeah, absolutely.
That's not
we can put that on there, but that's the law anyhow. You know, if it's destroyed by more than 50%. Yeah, we put that on. There.
I think it'd be better to have it on,
Um,
that clarifies what it is that our intention.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
But beyond that, I guess I have no problem moving ahead with this.
same here.
All right,
Let's go ahead.
All right.
Okay, let's go to the findings.
The findings. Subdivision 1, findings required. First, number 1 is the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of official controls. Staff analysis, the land use plan encourages development at or near. Sorry. Okay. Findings required that the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of official controls. Staff analysis is the land use plan encourages development at or near existing developed locations and rehabilitation of existing infrastructure. And addition will allow the potential buyers to rehab the dwelling into a functional structure for their family.
All in favor of the findings, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
So. Number 2, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls and the proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Staff analysis. An accessory structure is a reasonable use of the property. The existing shed is almost 10 years old, probably more than that now, and the neighboring landowner has not contested its location prior to receiving a public notice for this hearing. The dwelling was built prior to zoning or bluff regulation, and adding an addition will encroach on the bluff setback.
In favor of the findings with staff analysis, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Number 3, the variance request is due special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. Staff analysis, steep slopes on the county highway limit this property. In addition, the septic system will need to be replaced, further reducing the amount of available area. The current landowner permitted the shed and States County staff visited at that time. In addition, advances in GIS technology have brought awareness to the property line issues that may not have been realized before. The dwelling is considered legal non-conforming, but an expansion requires the structure to meet current standards.
Okay. Any questions?
What's that last sentence mean? Dwelling is legal. An expansion, okay, expansion or
Yeah,
replacement. Sure,
Would
okay,
would require, so that's why we have to have a variance.
yep,
because-
all right,
You're advancing into the toe.
yep. Yep, I'm okay, aye.
All in favor
Aye.
of the variance?
Aye.
Aye.
The variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. Staff analysis, the only reasonable method to quickly mitigate any issues with the existing shed is via variance. The house was constructed prior to zoning, and the original structure encroaches on the toe of bluff setback. Relocating the addition to meet the bluff setback may not work with the design of the existing structure.
Okay, any questions? And all in favor of those findings as based on staff analysis, say aye.
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 Okay.
Number 5, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. Staff analysis, the adjacent property is timber and unbuildable hillside. Rural residential properties with accessory buildings are commonly found throughout the Ag Protection District, and these proposals will not impact public health, safety, or welfare.
Okay, any comments, questions? All in favor of the findings, say aye.
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 Number 6, the last one, the request is not a use variance that shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. Staff analysis, these are area variances and there is no floodplain in the vicinity. Dwelling additions and accessory structures are commonly found in rural residential properties.
Discussion? All in favor of number 6, say aye.
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 Okay, we need a motion on the findings, to accept the findings as
I'll make a motion to accept the findings as presented.
I'll second it.
motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then we need a motion on granting a variance or denying it, I guess is the only thing left.
I'll make a motion, we grant the variance of 15 feet, 45 feet, and 25 feet.
Do we want any stipulation on the one on the existing building, the 45-foot variance? That it.
Yes, that it's got to be,
For that
if
building
it's
only.
replaced, it has to be within the 50 feet variance.
Yes. Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll
With that
second it.
addition? Okay, we have a motion, a second to grant it that way. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We need a roll call. I'm not sure. I guess you should say,
Can you repeat the wording on the condition?
The wording is if that shed that's 4.9 feet away from Dean Myries, if that ever blows down, burns up, or has to be replaced, it has to be moved towards the house 50 feet.
well, to meet the.
To meet the variance.
Variance.
Needs to comply with the variance.
Okay, here's the proposed language. If the shed is to be replaced, the new structure should meet necessary current setback requirements.
That's what I was figuring with.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
That takes care of it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
What's the next one supposed to be? I can't remember. Yeah, Erickson's. We're late on it already, so we better get moving on it.
Yeah. Having fun filling in for community here. The next notice is, it's an application received by the following persons for a variance of a setback. Mark Erickson. The property is the northwest quarter, and
Is this
I'm getting,
Erickson?
yes,
Okay,
all right.
Are you Mark?
I am, and I'm sorry, my compliments to my construction career, my hearing is shot. I got some other parts that are worn out too. Hearing aids in.
Mark, you can probably go sit up.
Yeah,
if you want.
Yeah, please do.
I probably better get as close as I can. I'm a train wreck.
All that. Some kind of limitation.
I got a couple of handouts here that might.
All right, thank you.
Better prove
Okay.
the cause.
Thank you.
I can appreciate what you're trying to do by protecting the road. We have to see what some of these gravel companies do to it and then.
Yeah.
Let's start over with the notice.
Okay. The notice of public hearing is that an application was received from the following persons for a variance and setback requirements. Mark Erickson, and it's for in Mound Prairie Township. It's the northwest quarter and the northeast quarter of the southwest quarter, section 21, township 104, range 5, Houston County, Minnesota. The variance is to reduce toe of bluff setback requirement per section 2917 subdivision 2 to place an accessory building. The next variance is for a setback requirement to reduce side yard setbacks in an agricultural district for a proposed building, section 14.8 subdivision 1. The hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Commissioner's Room, City of Caledonia, Minnesota. All persons having an interest in this matter will be given the opportunity to submit comments relative to granting or denying said application. Comments should be mailed to the Environmental Services Department, 304 South Marshall Street, Caledonia, Minnesota, or emailed to Amelia Myers at co.houston.mn.us and must be received by Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. Comments in regard to the petition received by this date will be part of the public record and will be made available for review by the Board of Adjustment prior to the meeting.
Oh, I guess,
So.
go ahead. Let's.
1 year ago, the previous building that was there burned to the ground. I had a windy night or something, and I had a wooden floor in it and a wood heater. And the next day it was just completely gone. So what I'm trying to do is abut the building to my garage so that I don't have to walk through the snow and shovel steps up to the shop where it
Okay.
used to exist. And all I'm trying to do is take it back 20 paces so I can put it tight to my garage.
Yeah.
And stay out of the weather. I happen to have a bulldozer that I bought this year. That's what I do over a side, well, for my pastime now is just buy heavy used up equipment and spend a year refurbishing it and then sell it on. So this year I had a dozer and it was embarrassing to have that burned out wreck of a building laying around. So I bulldozed it before I filed for a permit with Amelia. And most helpful to get me to this point, but I did cut into the toe of the bluff before I realized that that's a violation.
Okay.
Which is why you see that retaining wall that put up about a month later to hold it back, because I would lose more than anybody. It would fall.
Oh, yeah.
Any erosion would come right into my house and wipe me off the map.
I'll just touch on a couple of things quick from the staff report that I should have updated. On the front page, I did mention that lines and beacons were, I believe, to be incorrect, and I asked the surveyor office to redraw those. And so they were off slightly, but that is what led to the 12-foot side yard setback then. And then I also have that we had asked the Soil and Water District to review the site and provide a report, and they did look at it, but they decided they did not want to provide comments because it's an engineer's practice, and that's outside of their area of expertise, I guess. So just a couple of clarification points.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if any of you were snowmobilers in the past, but the main thoroughfare runs right through my property. And I'm happy to allow that, and it's the old road bed.
Right,
old Highway
okay,
25, from what I'm told. And the road is canted back to the bluff, so there is no runoff from the sheer surface of the bluff all the way down to where I propose to build a shop. It goes immediately to the west. So the only sheet drainage that I'm diverting is about 20 feet from the old road bed going off the high side where a guardrail would have been.
Did you have it surveyed off the highway, so it's not?
Good point, but actually Terry Botcher had that done when he sold 40 acres to Bob Flatten. So the pins were still in the road. I was able to locate them. So when I poured the wall that from the 33-foot right-of-way easement, I'm at 42 feet. So I'm outside of that requirement.
So according to Brian Pogodzinski, I thought he said that should be surveyed.
Said that it was what?
Should be surveyed.
I guess I don't see the point. The pins are still in the ground. The topographical map is here.
Was he aware that the pins were there?
We'll touch on that one too. I did-
Well,
Brian was
there
going
is
to do it.
comments from Brian.
We have a budget from those guys at $10,000. for surveying. So if we can dodge that one, and we have that kind of a budget, that's
Yeah.
almost half the cost of what the building is. They're good at what they do, no doubt, but like I say, I had no reason to doubt the property markers. Actually, Amelia, if you remember, I took you up onto the road where the pins were. My property is still staked out from, I bought it 5 years ago. So do I call the same engineers that set them to have them revisit them for $800?
What page is Zinski's comment on?
That's what I'm kind of,
Page 2, it was included in the staff report, it wasn't a separate comment.
that's what I was kind of wondering. And I was thinking he was just gonna check the,
He's basically got two comments. He's got one about the right of way issue, and then he also farther down, there's the issue of geotechnical stability.
What page is that?
That's page
Page 1 and 2.
page 1 and 2.
Yeah, Brian and I had that discussion back in October, which originally I had proposed 8-inch cement block for a retaining wall, and he questioned that, as did Amelia. So then I proposed a poured concrete wall with rebar. That's what I went with. We agreed that I had to act and take it at least that far, because it's gonna be 6 months before I can swing a hammer again. And since the hillside was already opened up, and if the spring thaw were to create any kind of a
oh, yeah.
collapse, I've got to have some means to catch it. So, made a significant investment in that wall up there.
Was that poured concrete? Or, were they,
It's a poured concrete wall there.
Or concrete wall, yes.
So that part is already in place then. That part of the retaining.
Right, those are the views on
Yep.
articles C, D, E.
So basically, you're already done a lot to stabilize the slope.
Yeah.
And then your addition would still be higher than your existing garage, I believe, if I remember right.
That's right.
Following
It
through.
would be about a 10-foot elevation change.
So you're going to be basically stepping halfway between the slopes somewhat.
Right, and I'm gonna have poured concrete staircase inside.
Right, I saw that.
Yeah,
And I believe the upper wall is also going to be a retaining wall type thing of the
right,
garage.
right. It's a matter.
So
of
it's designed to hold it, be like below basement wall.
Correct. In fact, the grade is cut to that elevation so that I can pour those walls.
Okay. I know when earlier I drove by there to look at it, it was so muddy, I didn't want to walk up there. And it didn't look good
Appreciate
because of, that concerns, but
I slipped on my ass more than a couple times. I'm not good at bouncing anymore. So at this point, it's just a matter of if you'll allow me to put the building on top of my retaining wall there or not. Couple more eyes.
no, this. Okay, the retaining wall would be the upper edge of your building. then.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's where that is. Yeah. Okay, now I follow. The biggest one, we had some comments about the concerns from Mount Prairie Township, more about the driveway, I think, than anything else. And I, just more that I think we need to have you work with the town board.
I haven't altered anything with the driveways. There was a second.
Right,
there
to
was
the
a
other
second
building,
driveway,
yeah.
So there was.
But they
mention-
were concerned about getting mud into the road and stuff like that. They expressed that last month when we had the.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
They expressed the concern about mud or stuff getting into the township road.
Township Road is getting so muddy that the people down below are getting stuck
Is that right?
trying to
So
drive up
they
that
would like,
hill and get to the highway.
they were concerned about trying to have a culvert or something in that drive.
My neighbors Terry Botcher and Von Arks are getting stuck on Dave Valley Drive.
Why? I don't know if they,
During the heavy rains, it washes right down your road because you don't have culverts and the road is not back sloped coming up to the,
Okay. I
Yep.
guess I
Township
wasn't aware of that.
so there's, that was a concern that the town board had expressed
Yeah.
when we decided to table your postpone because
Yeah.
you couldn't be
Yeah, I
here.
remember we had a conversation about that. There was talk about adding a culvert, but right where my driveways come into Dave Valley, I'm on the high side. I'm
Yeah,
on
I
the
know
top
you
of the
are.
hills. Do I dig a trench to put a
And I'm not
culvert?
sure what they were looking at. I think they would like to have you work with them.
All right. I'm
You know,
happy to
just,
do
and
that.
How long is the driveway?
How long is it?
Yeah,
300.
I mean, you could put water breaks in there along the
Oh,
way.
I've done that. I added 24 dump truck loads of gravel since then.
But you have it channels it off of,
I have the heavy riprap that started out and then reduced the size of the aggregate until I got to a 3/4 minus top and rolled it and locked it tight. So it sheets again into the bluff
okay,
and it diverts, what should I say, west on Dave Valley Drive. And I have to admit, one consequence that I'm responsible for with that dozer is I made an attempt to clean up the snowmobile trail because people use horses and four-wheelers on it. And since it is in my name, any of these boulders that are the size of basketballs and stuff, I wanted to get off of the roadway so people don't trip, horses don't trip. Actually, I picked up a couple today that the snowmobile trail grader picked up. Well, in doing so, I took off too much turf and that created a flume when it rained one time. And that's where I
Oh,
got
sure.
one swale on Dave Valley Drive.
That
got
may be
reported.
what brought the
Yeah,
two of
and
yours their
since then,
attention.
I've bolstered it with heavy stones and water breaks.
Do you have two driveways approaching the township road or does the second driveway just fit into your
No, the
main
second-
driveway?
Well, let me see, the best way to describe it is, one is the snowmobile trail, and I don't consider that a driveway because
Oh, okay.
it goes nowhere for me. It's just a thoroughfare for the sleds. In my driveway, I have one that goes to the house and one that went to the shop. But they meet, they come together before.
So you only have the one approach to,
Right.
actually,
There's one approach
to the
road.
township road.
Yeah. And again, I've added heavy stone under the driveway to
Sure,
try to get the
sure.
water to run down into it and slow it down like a riprap. So I have trouble with my driveway washing out too.
Well, yeah. That was kind of the concern and I'm almost wondering if they were because thinking of that snowmobile trail that is the second driveway.
That seemed to be Brian's main concern is that I don't disrupt the snowmobile trail, and I've got no issues with them whatsoever. I'm happy to do it.
Well, I think it's more the fact that it's county right of way as well. There's an extended amount of right of way in that area
Sure.
that covers the highway.
Do I know that when the county right of ways, when they redo a road, they go beyond at some points because they need for fill dirt or salvage dirt sometimes.
Right.
Because that's been
And,
done by my farm.
Follow-up conversation I had with Brian, both in October and I think it was maybe 3 years ago when I leveled off some land. I also talked to him. And he said that I could petition to have that old roadway vacated so that it's taken off the map and it's all mine to do
Sure.
what I will, which again is nothing. It's too steep to do anything with. Can't grow anything. I'm not a farmer, so sleds and horses are fine by me. Open to any input as far as handle of the runoff. If my driveway is creating any kind of an issue.
Culverts in the backside
And drain it to,
down the ditch.
And that's really something you should take up with the township, so you're doing what they're looking for.
uh,
They're the road authority for you for that particular area.
Is that a township road?
Yep.
Well, I'm trying to picture it when you channel the water off your driveway. When it gets to the bottom, is your driveway the high spot and it goes both ways?
that's right,
Okay,
yeah.
and there is greater ditches, we call them, for it
On
to
both sides.
channel.
It might be the one that they're looking at.
Boy, it's very shallow if you could consider it a ditch.
Okay.
It's a long time since I drove out there. So
Yeah.
for me to remember what that approach was like.
In
Well,
fact,
and-
I'll say there isn't a ditch until
On the
you
upper
go
side.
past my driveway.
But it goes lower than your driveway to the house, right?
What's
I mean, that ditch, that roadside ditch, it continues going down the hill
That's right.
below
yeah.
your driveway.
Yeah.
So
Right.
how can it run east and west?
From my driveway to the snowmobile trail, there is no ditch. When the grader comes through with his blade, it's dead level as far as the blade encroaches on the green area.
Hmm.
Same thing when the brush hog comes through. There's no ditch to mow between those two spots. That first colored map that I presented you,
So if the township ditched it out, would you put the culverts in?
did I put them in?
Would you?
Would you?
I will, if that's what's required to build the shop. Sure. I've got the equipment to do it, and it's just a matter of purchasing the culverts.
I will add this, be careful on the size when you're putting culverts, because in
Yeah,
a lot of instances, when you design a culvert, half of the wetted perimeter is a full culvert.
yeah,
Anything more than that, you're in pressurized flow.
the spring, yeah. I'm familiar with that. Well, that much we'd have to have some surveying done, get some elevation shot. I can do that too. I took surveying in college and I spent 42 years practicing it. But I guess deal directly with Brian then, of the county. When you say the county, is that Brian?
Brian would be the.
County engineer.
highway. Anything done on township roads, you would need to talk to the township about.
Is that Teresa?
Chuck
Start with
Beckman,
her and then see who she sends you to. I think
All right.
Dan was heavily involved, I guess, in that area.
he's the chairman of the board.
Okay. So
And Chuck Beckman.
Chuck Beckman. I'm familiar with. All right.
Okay.
So you're saying it's not in the county right away?
I was pretty particular about that. I'm right at 42 feet. So I've got a 7-foot buffer from the 33 feet that is on a certified.
And you're
survey.
talking the old road bit,
Right. the old road bed.
not the current road. You're
Not the
talking,
current
where
road.
the only one that would be questionable is the road that they no longer use. It's a small trail. It's beyond the right of way of that also.
Actually, on page. I know there's kind of two shades of green there, but the green line shows it's the county right of way. It is actually a full, there's a, I believe, 100 feet or
Right.
something there from the center of the new county highway. It's not like there's a right of way for the new highway and a right of way for the whole.
Okay,
It just
right.
extends the full distance.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
That's the existing driveway to where the shop was.
Where the shop was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I kind of figured that was, like, and that won't be used as much now. Will it continue with that?
Well,
Either one,
that, it still goes to the
the
shop
shop,
that I'm gonna build.
but they merge before they get to the township
That's
road.
right, yeah.
So it's only one access on to the
Correct.
township road. Okay. I think that was part of my confusion.
So when I was up there, I thought, boy, this is some different looking soil. Churchtown silt loam.
It's,
Boy, that's some miserable stuff.
it sure is. I cut it 90 degrees with the blade and it's cohesive. Like Class A soil that won't collapse. Have a hard time knocking it down. For what it's worth, where I dug into it wasn't virgin soil either. I was pulling up old iron desks, bed springs, brake rotors,
The old dump.
whatever could be buried.
Is it possible that part of that is an end cut where it was a cut and fill scenario where it was cut out of the bank, disturbed, and then
That's
35,
exactly
40
what-
40 years of consolidation or whatever the case may be?
That or what we used to see is an awful lot of dump people threw
Oh,
everything
yes.
else off the side of the road.
Absolutely.
Ravine
The
became,
Rainy Ravine was the county dump.
Yeah,
well, private dump on a farm.
Yeah.
every time I put a shovel in the ground, I hit something that makes me dig 10 times more than I intended to. There was a 28-foot camper trailer that was all burned out. Story was told where a friend of George Hill went there with a cutting torch to harvest a trailer, lit it on fire accidentally, and when it burned out, then they just buried it. So that one's a lot of trips to the dump. We don't haul it away.
Where we at here?
Well,
So
I
what
think,
was one other Brian's concern?
Well, the other one is the existing slope and garage area is already very steep and the engineering geotechnical analysis that would go along with it. So in other words, I hear what you're saying, but, and I'm not completely speaking for Brian here, but it's so you put the building up,
Yeah,
you consolidate the soils, then, it's the issue of stability of the structure. Will the structure stay intact? Will it settle differentially? Will something occur? Will it shift? And I mean, pole buildings are notorious for racking, and so there's a little bit of that. Could the foundation in any way be compromised that to the point where there would be a stability issue with that? And, in other words,
yeah.
it's partly the structure that's going on. It's one thing with the use. It's also a little bit of the design that would go along.
Well,
with
I should clarify where I mentioned, I called it a pole building. It's a pole building package, but it's gonna be mounted on concrete all the way around.
I saw that like a
Yeah.
grade beam.
Yes, exactly. And for the stairwell, it's almost like I'm putting a full basement underneath this building, that
So
portion.
with doing the reinforced concrete, originally part of your plan proposed, you put them CMUs, concrete management units, meaning oversized block, stackable interlock block system. Are you still looking at that?
No,
It's
it's poured
just
concrete all the
completely
way.
that. And then I guess the other question is in terms of, it's one thing to do a reinforced concrete wall, but also how you anchor it. How you anchor it in terms of what you're footing, in terms of a spread footing, how you distribute that load and how that runs out and how that, so there's another analysis that goes along with that to make sure the soils aren't either, the earth pressures are kicking in or out
Okay,
and that kind of stuff. That's my background.
have you seen the detail I drew for the?
I did,
Okay,
I did. See.
So it's not gonna overturn the wall
Well-
with the slab. Once the
And
concrete
that's,
slab is
that's
there.
the, I mean, that's an area where you know, I have some concern there with it. I haven't run any analysis on it. It's not really our position in this program to do that part. We're
Right.
really here for the use part, not the design part. But the one thing that we obviously don't want to have, and you don't want to have happen is something kicks out and something lets loose.
Well, and that's why I use these dog leg toe outs,
The wing wall,
exactly,
yes.
opposing to help keep it from teetering until I can get the slab in place. Once the slab is in place, I'm not concerned with that.
You know, and there is merit to the fact that the slab is actually providing more mass.
Right.
As long as it's not surcharging something that's already
Well-
rotationally unstable, you know, and that kind of scenario too. So,
Plus, I'm gonna fill the backfill against that retaining wall with washed gravel and drain tile.
Yeah.
So,
So you won't have the frost problem as much.
no. Oh, plus, I'm gonna heat the slab.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
you're
you
here
got-
to
you
chop.
got- You got a wood burner, huh?
There's not gonna be any wood burning this time.
Okay.
There's massive concrete there by the time I'm done.
How many yards? You figure you're gonna have
It
there?
will be 18 yards for the floor. I've already poured 20 yards for that retaining wall. And then for the stairwell wall, that'll be another 20 yards.
With iron, rebar?
reinforced concrete.
Right, yes. Number 4 bar, 16 on the center.
Now, you realize there are nuances with reinforced concrete on where you place the rebar. Slab,
Yes,
okay.
right. In fact, I'm gonna pour a heavier slab because of the equipment that I roll in there. So
Well, no, what I'm getting at is that, you know, whether it's your tensile forces, your compressive forces, and which side the steel is actually taking the load.
Okay.
So. Where I'm leading to all this, I'm not trying to beat them up. Where I'm going with this is just that when you get into structures that get big, all of a sudden it really behooves
Well-
you to have an engineer
Right.
do that. And maybe you are an engineer. I'm not, you know.
oh, engineers hand me the prints and I put it together in the
Okay.
field. So there's day-to-day interaction.
You know,
It fails on paper.
the last thing I want to do for you is the design of it. I am an engineer.
Right. Well, the building package itself is engineered.
I'm sure for the snow load and for all those kind of conditions, the sub base can get unique. And that's the part that jumps out. The structure, not sweating that for a second.
Right.
I mean, that, the size of your header, the loads, the doors where things are swinging and stuff like that. I'm sure that's just like right there. It's just that when you get into foundations and you get into high walls and you run into earth pressures and what they do, they get very unique. I mean, sometimes they tip out, sometimes they tip in. You know, there's a lot of things that happen. And water in cohesive soils can be very strange. Ice lenses and things that will pop up. It's not cut and dried stuff.
Right. I'm gonna put a good heavy 18-inch base of gravel underneath the slab. And a thickened slab where the heavy traffic will come through. And I also see an opportunity to put a trench grate in the middle of the garage for snow equipment that would melt so that I could have like a grease pit underneath.
Those are interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot more concrete. Be a fallout shelter for me.
My advice, and I've poured a lot of those over the years, buy a precast one. Don't cast it in place.
A precast pit.
Trench. If you're looking at anything like that, a precast unit will work immensely better than something you try to cast yourself in.
Alright.
Like ACO, there's a number of drains out there. I've done many,
Good to know.
they're not cheap.
Well, I think we got a,
Hey,
um,
You have a card on you that?
our concerns are more with the slope and stuff like that. I think to me, he's addressed a lot of that already, so. Move on to the
findings.
findings, unless you have any more questions or anyone else has comments.
Okay. I'll try to speak loud. The variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of the official control. The staff analysis, the land use plan has a policy to promote land management practices that protect natural resources. Bluff land is one of these resources, and the applicant has identified strategies he believes will mitigate any risk.
Okay, any comments, questions? All in favor of variance number 1, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Well,
Number 2, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls, and the proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulty. The staff analysis, the applicant is seeking to replace an accessory structure that was lost to a fire in early 2021. Accessory structures are common on any property within the county. While this parcel does have over 2 acres, the buildable area is extremely limited when all setbacks, slopes, right-of-way, well, and septic locations are taken into account.
okay, any comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Approved, go ahead.
Number 3, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. The staff analysis. There was an existing shed in a similar location, so it is reasonable that the landowner expected to be able to build in the proposed location. Slopes and road setbacks limit the usability of this parcel, and there is no alternative location to build a structure of that size on this parcel.
Okay. Comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Number 4, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. The staff analysis, between steep slopes and road setbacks, there is no alternative location available. The applicant feels this proposal is an improvement upon what had been existing because there will be only one building impacting runoff from the hillside, rather than 2 as it was when the old shed structure was present.
Comments, questions? All in favor of number 4, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Go ahead.
The variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. Staff analysis, accessory structures are commonly found in the agricultural district, so this proposal will not alter the essential character of the locality nor impair property values, public health, safety, or welfare.
Okay, comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor of number 5, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Go ahead.
Number 6, the last one, the request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district. Permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. Staff analysis, there is no floodplain in the vicinity of this proposal. Structures accessory to a dwelling are permitted use in the agricultural district.
Okay, any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. And we need a motion to approve the findings.
I'll make a motion, we approve the findings as presented.
So second,
Yep, I'll second it with the condition that you make things right with the township on that.
this is
roads
just on the
washing onto
findings.
the township road.
I'm glad to do it for you.
All in favor of motion to approve the findings, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Then we need to go to a variance request. We're not done
We got
yet.
one more step.
We need a motion to grant or deny the variance.
Well, do we have any
On
conditions?
the
The one condition that we had was the having an engineer look at the stability, basically the slope and
Okay.
the structure. And, you know, this is what we had in there. We had a plan incorporating erosion and sediment control designed by a professional engineer licensed in the state of Minnesota, must accompany any future zoning application. The professional engineer shall be familiar with Houston County and the state of Minnesota policies and requirements, have good professional judgment and an understanding of erosion processes, materials, and methods of erosion control, as well as a working knowledge of soil mechanics. The professional engineer shall sign off on the completed project.
You wanted to correct spell mechanics.
Yeah, and I would say geotechnical. We could go that route.
What's
Just
that?
spent $4,400.
And you've already done that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, this is your-
Kind of a budget.
This is your quote, okay.
I mean, for a surface area, the size, footprint, the size of your house, get the whole property engineered.
It's just, you know, will it fail or not? I mean, and like I said, you know, I mean, we're in the part of approving it in the sense of the use, not so much in the design part,
right.
you know, and I mean, and then there's the design, is it a 30-year design? Is it a 50-year design? Is it designed like to be an airport? You know, I mean, there's all kinds of things you can design for. So, you know, that's a,
Well, considering there was nothing there before, you know how much tonnage of concrete is butted up against that now? It's less apt to fail after I poured the concrete than it ever would before.
hopefully, yes.
Yeah, I think he's done more to stabilize that bluff than,
It should be.
it should be more stable already than it was before. I'm not sure, personally not sure I need that one. I am concerned about the township, to work with the township on the road access.
Yeah,
That's the only one I would put on.
My thought was to include that on the building permit.
And
rather than
I saw
in the
that
variance.
rather than us state it, yeah.
All right, good idea.
So more to come.
Yeah, if the variance is to be approved, then I would finish processing the building permit. And so that we can impose the additional conditions on that, just as we would this one. And I think it's a better way to address the township road than through that, the variance hearing.
Oh, okay. All right, well.
So if we don't want.
So do we need that in
We
there?
don't need the conditions
Do we need that
We have-
red in there?
on the township stuff, we don't
I-
necessarily.
I think with, you know, what Amelia's saying, I think there's another way to go about it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it can certainly be done. And that's actually a better avenue is in the context of the structure part than it is in the use part, which is what you're addressing.
Yeah, all right,
Yeah.
so we take that out and,
Yeah.
well, we're not gonna put it.
I don't
the
think we need
township in there
any,
either.
no, I don't think we need any conditions.
All right,
So I need a motion to grant a variance.
I will make that motion to grant the variance for the toe of the bluff setback and a variance of 12 feet to reduce the side yard setback for the proposed building.
With no conditions?
Yes,
Very good,
And
much appreciated.
well, we're not.
need
done.
a second. I'll second that then. We have a motion and a second to grant the variance on the toe of the bluff requirement and a 12-foot reduced side yard setback. Discussion on the motion.
I think we should have an engineer look at that. That's my opinion.
Yep. So, do a roll call vote if we do it.
Sure.
Thank you, I have it right here. Ken Anderson,
I'm in favor, yes.
Larry Haffner,
Yes.
Franklin is not here, Wayne Runnigan.
To that last variance.
To the,
To that
to the variant, motion to on the variance. With no requirements, just a straight.
No,
And Ken Visker is absent, so that is two, to approve the variance and one against.
Motion carried.
Motion
right?
carried.
Motion carries.
Yep. Thank you. You can finish these up here. Okay, so then we get to the next one. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Okay, the notice of continuation of public hearing, that an application was received from the following persons for a variance setback. Gregory and Jazeski. Thank you. It's for a parcel in Mount Prairie Township. It's in the western half of the northeast quarter and the southeast quarter, the northwest quarter, section 10, Township 103, Range 5, Houston County, Minnesota. The variance of setback requirements to reduce side yard setbacks in an agricultural district for existing buildings. The hearing on this application will be held at the Houston County Commissioners Room, City of Caledonia. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to submit comments relative to the granting or denying of said application. Comments should be mailed to the Environmental Services Department, South Marshall Street, Caledonia, Minnesota, or emailed to Amelia Miners at co.houston.nn.us and must be received by Tuesday, January 18, 2022. Comments in regard to the petition received by this date will be part of the public record and will be made available for review by the Board of Adjustment prior to the meeting.
Then we should go through the staff report a little more in depth.
Well, I guess Amelia here can fill in a little bit. I guess some of this has certainly been discussed before.
Right.
And so it comes down to the agricultural building shall not be constructed or used as a permanent or temporary rental residence for any person or group of person. Any agricultural building may contain a single restroom not to exceed 80 square feet. And another issue is for buildings 10 years or older, we consider a dwelling. So that one isn't too much, but it's the one that kind of jumps out is the idea of could it potentially, residence elements of it. The other setbacks. Let's see. The issue of the tear down, in terms of that part. And then the property, the existing building on the west property line. I guess those are. Amelia. So it's. Amelia, you got more to fill in with going through the staff report on summary for the.
Did not. All I did add, I believe, was that I talked to the septic contractor, and he was looking, I guess he was gonna design a full system for that. He said when he was out there that city soils work and look at the site that they had for it, and the plumbing was subbed in for a bathroom and a small kitchen.
Anything else you want? Staff report?
No, that was all that I had added, and then we drafted a separate set of findings as you guys requested.
Yep, so the two issues are dealt separately. Okay, Greg?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And would it be helpful to run through the timeline again? I think that we talked for a really long time last time. I think it got a little jumbled, I think. So I think that might be helpful to kind of run through what happened to hopefully, I mean, especially after kind of hearing other ones here. If you reheard the timeline, I think you might understand why I did what I did. Maybe not, but hopefully it'll help. So November of 2020, and this is after we already talked to Houston County about getting information about, what can we do? We're new to the whole thing, so we got information about what we could do with the existing sheds that we had on there. And in June of 2020, they said basically, at the end of the conversation, we don't look in anybody's sheds. And wasn't probably great advice. I don't think that person's around anymore, but that was almost 2 years ago now. And so that was before anything even started. And so we contacted our contractor, Caledonia Lumber Company. That's who we decided to have build it. And got the initial plans for the buildings, got an estimate, and we're getting ready to go the following spring. They were under the impression that no permit was needed because they felt it was an in-kind building. I'm not into building. I don't know. You guys obviously know way more than me, and they should too. But they're under the impression that they didn't need a permit. But and then Caledonia Lumber Company informed that they were not able to do it in April of 2021. So April of last year, they weren't able to do it because they're so backlogged with COVID stuff that they just could only work on the stuff that was on the books at the time. So I really would have had little to do with this process at all, and they would have handled the whole thing. Project went on hold. I found I don't know if it's a laborer, but someone that could could do the building, and he felt that I didn't need a permit because, and I'm not disputing whether a permit is needed or not. I want you to know that. I want you to know where I came from when I started. Just like the gentleman before that, he dug into the bluff without a permit and didn't know, and he was approved. He put 40 yards of concrete down before he got a permit. I didn't know, and I didn't start building yet. And then I called Houston County and asked when I didn't have a contractor to do the work, when I was more acting as, I guess, the general contractor. I asked what permits are needed. We described the entire project. The project didn't change from beginning to end. The entire project as is. And we talked about stuff that I didn't even know. Like the bathroom has to be within 80 square feet, no living quarters, stuff like that. And there's no mention at all of a permit. In fact, not only was there no mention, but they said I did not need a permit for what I was doing. Okay. Then I hired the septic company, Weiser Septic, Caleb Schulte Concrete, Drew Waterhouse Plumbing, and they got to work with the plans that we had from Caledonia Lumber Company. And then after we poured the floor, initially we were going to pour the floor without taking down the building at all and use the existing timbers. But they realized, the concrete, Caleb Schulte realized that wasn't feasible. That we had to disassemble the existing timbers, pour the floor, and then put the timbers back up in the same exact spot. And so the cement was poured. Our laborer that was doing the work decided it was too big of a project for him and his brother to do. They had a falling out. So now it's back on me, of course. And then we got a new crew, a framing crew, to continue from then on. The cement was poured. We had the existing timbers. We realized we couldn't use the existing timbers because they had too much creosote to be healthy in an indoor deal. But so we changed the wood. That's the only thing that we really changed. And then we started to re-erect the building. And before, when the wood was delivered, but before the building was even put up, the cement slab was there. Houston County reached out to us and said nothing about a permit whatsoever, and nothing about not having a permit at all, but said that we were too close to the center line on the road. So we measured from the center line on video, to where the concrete slab is, and showed that it was like 78 feet from the center line, which meets the setback from the center road. Again, no mention like you need to have a permit or anything like that. They knew the project was actually going. And so it was reasonable. If I should have known to have a permit, then why are the people at Houston County that knew the building was going on and knew that I didn't have a permit, didn't force me to get a permit?
Do you know what department that was?
Well, I think that was you, wasn't it? About the setback from the street?
That sounds like.
Yeah, I guess I reached out to you because you didn't have a permit, and then I was concerned about I thought you meant like a different department.
Oh, no.
But
no,
that's why I
no.
reached out to you, because you didn't have a permit, and then I was concerned about setbacks too.
You were concerned about the setback. You were concerned about the permit, right? Because you never said anything about the permit, right? You're concerned about the setback from the road. I mean, there's no mention of permit whatsoever. The permit wasn't mentioned until we got a stop work order.
I guess I'm trying to clarify, because you said all you had was a cement pad.
Yeah.
When this happened.
Right.
I guess
Was
when
that with the?
when
this
it was
sheet?
brought to my attention,
Yeah.
you had framing and trusses up at that
How
point.
far up was it when we?
The walls were up.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know what all the
Oh, I'm sorry.
trusses, but.
Sorry.
others were up.
The walls are up, the trusses weren't up.
There was some structure.
Okay,
present, though.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you were there, but I wasn't. I did measurement from the closest corner of the building to the center of the road to get the information to whoever was asking. I said that to you, then you forwarded it on.
Okay, all right, sorry. Okay, so the building had started and we measured, to the road. And still, but there was nothing said about a permit at that point. And then we received the stop work order. And still, we had the contention that, I mean, with the rules, the way that I read it, and of course, I'm not an attorney, right? But, and I'm not on the board. It's not my strong suit, right? It's not, I haven't been around this stuff forever, but the way that I read it is that if you're doing an in-kind building that was there prior to 1967, that you didn't need a permit. So it made sense that I wouldn't need a permit, and then when I read the definition of an in-kind building, I know that there's some differences in opinion. It's good. I think that everybody thinks this is going to be, like a residence, except for the people that are using it, right? Like everybody else thinks this is going to be a residence, and this is an agricultural building. And there's nothing else that I don't know what else I can do to convince you otherwise. And I don't know why everybody feels that. In fact, we have a place to sleep. We have no intentions of sleeping there. There's no bedrooms there. I bought a $750, Facebook Marketplace kitchen set, and we're gonna have a bathroom in there. And we'll use it when we're on, using the property. And the fact is, we got an appointment tomorrow to actually look at a residence in the area. This is an agricultural building. And I don't know how else to tell you that. I'm not a big fan of having a barn door, but if that's what you need, I'll certainly do it. Okay, if you need me to put a barn door on it, I will. I hate the dang mice, and those let in mice. And I have another place where we can store our four-wheelers and stuff like that. So I just don't need that wide of a door. But if that's what'll make it look more like an agricultural building, we can put that in there, and I'm happy to change the door if you'd like. I stopped the work order. When I got the stop work order, we went back and forth a little bit, and basically it was, well, this helps with the tax assessment. It's more of a formality. So I stopped when I was told to stop. I pulled the permit like I was requested to. I reached out to Mount Prairie like I was requested to. Then it came out that I'm 37 or 33 feet, 6 inches or whatever from the property line, not 50. And so at that point, again, went through the whole thing. Didn't think I needed a permit anyways, but if this is what we need to do to go through the process to get the variance, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I'll just go along with it. And so that's how we ended up in the variance meeting. And so that was the background. And I hope that you see that any reasonable person, I think, maybe not you all, because your job is to approve all of these and you know about all this stuff, but I think I did what any reasonable person would have done. And if I wanted to build a residence, I have just down the road, my own property that's on its own quarter that I could build a house if I wanted to. And I could have built that 13 feet over and it would have been in a more desirable location. So I'm not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes or do anything wrong or build this, this house. I just want the shed. And now, it's getting to the point. I mean, I have a lot of time and money into this. I mean, just these 2 delays cost me a lot. And now I'm again on the bottom of the list for everybody to get this completed if I'm able to get it completed. So, and I'm sorry if I'm getting a little passionate about this. It's been very expensive, very time consuming. I should be at my kid's wrestling match right now. I'm here 3 hours away from home.
Okay. Any questions that you have for him?
In kind and building, I don't know that that's a term in our ordinance, is it?
Call it being in the ordinance.
You've not built anything before, any residents or any buildings?
Yeah, I mean, builders have, yeah. For me, I wasn't involved in the process, no.
Well, but I'm wondering why you thought that didn't need to have a building permit.
Because when we called to ask if we need a building permit and describe the project, they said we did not need a building permit. Them telling us at Houston County, the county that we're building in, describing the exact building that we're doing, and they said that we don't need a building permit. That leads me to believe that I don't need a building permit. And it would anybody.
Last month, we discussed that, and many times throughout this document, you use the term refurbished. This is not a refurbing. If you called them and said, I'm going to refurbish this building, now I'm not going to change the footprint, they'd say, yeah, you don't need any permit.
Right.
And that's exactly what I'm guessing happened. It's not a refurbish,
but
it's a completely different building.
And I don't know what terminology I used back then, but no matter what word I used, I described the exact process that we're going through, that we're putting in a cement floor, that we're putting in we wanted to put in a bathroom, and we asked details of what we could do.
But were you still calling it a refurbish?
What's that?
Were you still calling it a refurbish? Because that's the key.
I think the key is that I told them what I was doing. And if they felt that it was a refurbish or whatever word that they wanted to use, they knew what the project was, no matter what word I might have used to describe it. That one word holds a lot less weight than when I told them what the exact project was going to be. And that didn't change from beginning to end.
When you told us it's going to be completely different area. This old building is here and I'm going to put this new one here. And they said, no, you don't need a permit. Is that right?
No, it's in the same exact spot.
Excuse me?
I'm sorry.
But you didn't, the old building was already down from what I've heard.
But it's not in the same spot.
And it's not in the same spot. We can't verify that you built in the same spot because there's nothing of the old building left there.
It is in the same exact spot, isn't it? I mean, we've measured it.
How do you know? How can you prove
That's
it?
why we're here today.
How do you know? There is nothing of the old building standing. It's not a refurbished old building. It's a brand new building, a totally different style of building than the old one. The old one was a pole building. This is a frame building. If you had those plans drawn up before you started, you knew you weren't going to put in a refurbished or a similar building.
So are you contending that the building that I have is not in the same spot? Is that what the issue is?
I have no way of,
It's the same-
I have no way of determining
Even if
that.
it is in the same spot, you had to tear that one down before you started this one. It's completely different. Completely different. You heard him talking here tonight, that one building was too close. They said, if for some reason that's gone, then you got to comply. And on page 28, you have two pictures, one with the old building and one with the new. And they're nothing.
Nothing even
There-
similar.
It doesn't look like a refurbished. It's a completely new construction.
And sheeting out.
Pardon me?
That, and sheeting out, meaning putting the tin on an old structure would be a lot different than sheeting out a wooden frame.
Yep,
They had a wooden frame and sheeting on the prior building too.
Possibly, it probably was it probably was horizontal, it may have been orientated different, just how you physically line it up, you know,
but it's a total different style of building.
if they are.
And then style, and
And you're saying
I
that,
don't want to argue with you, because that's not gonna
In
do
your
any good,
report-
but what do you mean by style?
you're saying that they knew,
Structures.
when you talked to them, they knew you were gonna build a completely different building. You're gonna remove this one, put another new one in there. You explained that to them and they said, no, no problem.
Oh, explain everything that we were doing. I didn't say we're gonna, completely demolish the one and then, completely rebuild a different one on a different spot. I mean, it's the same exact, width and length and height and pitch of the roof in the same exact spot.
And you think that's a refurbish?
Why do you keep saying the refurbished?
That's what
That's what you
continually
use
that
on
in
your application.
I don't know. I don't know what the definition of refurbished is. I know the definition of an in-kind building.
That's not part of our ordinance. I don't know what that is. I mean, I can assume what it is, but.
If you look at the picture of the old building, this is nowhere anywhere close to in kind. That basically was the old hay shed is all that was.
Look at the picture on 28, page 28.
I know, and we went through this last time too.
And I guess that's my problem is I don't think you've been very honest when you called the office, if you called them, about what we're proposing. That's the impression I have.
Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So I got some stuff wrote down here. And number one is no building permit. And you say you called them, but we don't know what language was used. There's nothing documented. So we're going with there was no building permit. Second, when you was told to stop building, you kept building for 2 days, 3 days. Amelia told you to stop and you didn't. Number 2, 3, 2 dwellings on a quarter. There's a loft in there. It's a 2-story shed. It's got a kitchen and a bathroom. And why isn't that a dwelling?
Because it fits the definition of an agricultural building. There's no bedrooms, no sleeping quarters. And in an agricultural building, you can have a bathroom, an 80 square foot bathroom.
Anything else?
The supervisors of Mound Prairie, I've talked to 2 of them, they want it tore down because of what's happened here. Outbuilding simply a rehab of an existing building. You kept saying that in the paperwork. And you look at page 28 and this is not. So then your credibility is lost. If you would have started with the permit, talked to Aaron, and he could have put you in the right boundaries, and this probably would have worked.
So what?
So wait a minute.
Okay.
The 40 that you can build on, it doesn't have a well. It doesn't have electricity. So the way I see it, you got the 16-acre homestead with electric and water, and you put up a shed and you make it livable. We can't stop that. But you went without a permit. You're putting the Board of Adjustment in the crosshairs. Everybody's watching us, because if you get away with it, what's going to happen to Houston County? Everybody's going to want to try and pull that.
What do you think I'm trying to pull here? I don't understand.
I'm afraid you got a show going on. And that's the first thing I seen when I went and looked at it. And I asked you, is this a house? And you said, no, it's an ag building. But I'm looking at it thinking, it's a house. That's my feeling. That's my opinion. It's a dwelling, the second one on a quarter, which we got rules. And you must have built before. You must have had to deal with zoning before. Why did you not come in and sit down at the computer and show them what you plan on doing? That, because there's money involved here. I don't want to see you lose money. But you kind of put us on the spot. I hate it.
Me too.
Couple things. I don't think the living quarters is unique to you. We have people, we have had one before I was on the board that actually took a granary, I believe, and they refurbed it into a house, and they ended up tearing it down because it was you know, and people are constantly looking at, you know, I'll build this and you may sell this. And the next guy says, I'm gonna buy that, I can live in there. So it's, I mean, we have to look beyond your process as well.
Sure. Is
The
there,
other thing is, I talked to our attorney and I asked him about that. And he said, it's the property owner's responsibility to know the law, to know what the ordinance is.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, do we want to hash this some more? Or do we want to start thinking about remedy?
it's up to you guys. I think that you have enough information.
I'll clarify a couple things too, if that's.
Okay,
So I guess I just wanna, I think our first contact was the stop work order, is that correct?
What's the what?
Was the stop work order?
Yes.
So,
No, it wasn't the stop work order, it was the distance from the road was the first contact,
but
right?
But it started, I think, because I sent the letter, or because I delivered the letter to your son. Because I don't think I had contact information for you before that, so I just,
Oh, okay,
and in that stop work order,
I did,
you're getting the stop work order because you need a permit, so there was the citation in there that you needed a building permit, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
And then, I just want to say that if you start talking I'm talking loud so the mics can get me, but, if you had left these two existing buildings and you just came in for a permit for a new one in there, we would still be in the same situation. Because what really caused this issue is the fact that when land was developed and they redrew all these lines, they drew them too close to the existing buildings.
Mhm.
So the problem was created prior to your ownership of it. But ideally, when we get in situations like this and we're looking at tearing down a building, we would just relocate it so that you meet that property line setback. But we'd still be in the same boat because you have the one on the west side as well that is too close to the property line. So I guess I just want to clarify that it's not, I mean, just because you're building an in-kind building, that original one was not compliant. Had those property lines been in place before the zoning ordinance was drafted or was adopted, they would be considered legal non-conforming. But they were done in the early 2000s, I think, if I remember correctly. And so that's what created the non-compliance for you. But it was done prior to your ownership, yes.
So what do we do with the other building?
That is, we'll vote on that tonight, so we'll get the whole property,
Okay.
hopefully in compliance, so then you're good, you'll be good for the future.
Any other concerns?
Just one more thing to mention, and I'll make it quick. I know that we're running long here, but I mean, I just sat through a variance meeting where his shed burned down and with no permit whatsoever. He not only, he cut into a bluff and then poured 40 yards of cement before applying for a permit. And I didn't hear anything about that with him. He should know that he has to get, I mean, I don't want to stand up and make public comment for him because I feel for him, but if you're worried about what Houston County and how people are going to envision that, how can that not even have been a concern? Not only did he, build this, not meet the setback that he probably could back somewhere else from the bluff, but he actually cut into the bluff, poured 40 yards of cement. What I did was I built a different building in the same exact place that the other building was. And I didn't get a permit, when if I just built it over 13 feet, it would have been fine. But there was nothing even said about this guy that cut into a bluff without a permit whatsoever. And there's no talk about his tail getting snapped into a mousetrap.
I think the biggest difference is he didn't say, I'm blaming that on them. I called them and they said that we didn't need a permit. We blame that on these people.
And you didn't stop when you got a work order to stop.
I did.
And we're also comparing apples to oranges. This is totally different down here. You didn't see how he went into that toe of the bluff. You didn't see that situation down there.
Yeah,
And there was a building there.
but
He was.
is it the same
And I
building?
think if he-
And did he cut into the bluff without a permit?
If he'd come in here and said, I talked to them and they said I could do it.
Yeah.
We'd be having that same conversation with him.
Are all the questions that you ask here relevant in making your decision? I mean, the stuff that you
It
ask
should
me,
be yes.
it should be yes. So
Yeah.
like everything that you ask me, it goes into making the decision, right?
I don't know about everything in there. I don't know where you're going with that.
Where I'm going with this is, why did you ask me where I was from?
I wanted to, I don't know. I don't think I asked you
I
that.
don't know if we did.
You did.
No,
You
I-
asked me
but-
where I was from. You knew exactly
Well,
what
it's-
buildings were
it's-
on this land.
What I really wanted to ask is what you did for a living, but I thought that would be out of the line. I was just trying to get some background to say, yes, I've built these and I've done these, or this is all new to me. And you said, yes, you have built some. You didn't do it so much yourself,
Yeah, but
but you were involved in some of that. And I-
for public record, you asked me, where do I live? Okay? Where do I live? What is the relevance of that? I come into the meeting here tonight and
I
someone
agree.
bulldozed right into a bluff and poured 40 feet of concrete before they even were told that to get a permit, and you applied the variance. You approved the variance, right? I think that the ones you don't approve are the people that are not from here. You don't have to see me in church, you don't have to see me down the road, you don't see me at the grocery store.
If I did, that was out of line. I have, what I was trying to find out what kind of background you had. If you said, yeah, I was raised on a farm and built buildings all the time and blah, blah, I would be talking to you very differently than you said, well, I didn't really build any myself. I was trying to get some idea of your background, whether it's reasonable or not, that you, I may have, if I did, I was out of line. But it has absolutely nothing to do with that.
Going back to that,
I still
I
don't know. where
think
it's
it
from.
was because he didn't have a permit. And he was wondering, where do you come from that you don't know
That you
that
need
you should get a permit? And I was here at that meeting and I assumed that was what he was referring to.
Oh, but Mr. whoever was just up here, right? You didn't assume that about him? Like, why did he not get a permit? Where did he come from that he thought it was okay to cut into a bluff and pour 40 yards of cement? And we just breeze through that whole thing and approve it, right? It was a bigger deal about the road than him cutting into an actual bluff. We're not even talking setback from the bluff. He cut into a bluff and poured 40 yards of cement and built a completely different building, yet he's local here, right? So we're just gonna approve that. Let's wait till somebody from out of town comes in and messes up a little bit and let's throw a hammer at him. Well, you know what? You guys will do what you need to do, okay? But it doesn't end here, okay? I can hold the county civilly liable and the board and each of you individually liable. And I know I have a good case. Everybody deserves to be treated the same. And I wasn't. This was not a big deal. The neighbor says that's closest, he's still 37 feet away. And he says, I'd rather you rebuild that ugly building that's there. You want word for word from him?
Yeah, we can move on to the public comments here. I can read that too. And it is a different situation. What started this process was a building permit application. So, are you guys fine with it?
Yep.
Okay, so we did have one additional public comment that was brought forth, and I guess it's a text message, I don't know, from Austin, who is the neighbor, and it does say, I do not object to renovating the barn despite the setback, provided that the barn does not expand from its current footprint. A renovated barn would be preferable to me compared to the barn in its current condition. You are authorized to repeat this message to Houston County. Enjoy the day, and it's signed Austin. Maybe you can tell us who that is. I believe it's in an LLC, so I'm not sure who the landowner is.
It's Austin Reinhardt's the owner of the land that is 33 feet away from the building.
So what is our,
Well,
what revenue do we have?
the process, I guess at some point we have to start going through the findings. We have them as separate ones.
Well,
And I guess my bigger concern is when we look at the findings, number 3 states, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. And most of it is created by the property owner. I have a real hard time saying that it wasn't creation of your building without a permit. That's where I come from. And once you tore down the old building, we can't even determine whether that building was in compliance or not. We don't know for sure because we haven't physically gone out to measure that building. And there's no sign of that old building left.
It was measured, that's why we're here. I guess was after it's down. You're right, after it's down.
It was tore down and now you measured. We don't even know whether that building was in compliance or not. And so the problem I have is in our findings, I can't vote for that one. Because that's a problem created by you as an owner. And I looked at another one is, what is it? The problem I have with the design of the building, to me, it looks more like a recreation cabin. You have a small walk-in door on the, I'm not sure which way, the one end to the utility room area. You have a nice double, almost a patio door coming out on the south side. Looks like onto a deck where you're going to have a fire pit and all that stuff. That's what it looked like when I walked out there. It doesn't look like an agricultural building. And with nice windows, two-story windows, that doesn't look agricultural. So that's part of my problem with this. You know, you said that you wanted to have that room for doing woodworking and stuff like that, but I built a wood shop myself on my farm. I've got a garage door in there, so I can get lumber in and tools. Almost anyone would be putting in a, if nothing else, just a partitioned off part in that building to drive a vehicle in, even if it's just for chainsaws, so you can unload that truck out of the weather. This building doesn't have any of that. So it doesn't look like what you say it is. And that's my frustration. So I guess that's my, as we get to the findings, that I wanted everyone where I am on those things.
Okay. But will you stipulate that legally it fits the definition of an agricultural building?
I will agree with that.
Okay.
Legally,
So legally,
legally-
fits the definition, for the record, this is recording, right? For
legally,
the record,
you can have a,
it's a definition.
There's nothing-
No, I
says-
called it a shelves. And that's what it is.
but the says that I can't have the bathroom facility. There's many agricultural buildings. In fact, in the larger dairy operations, you almost have a requirement to have a break area.
So in order to meet, maybe in the middle, if you can come up with whatever you want me to do or limitations to put on this shed, so you'd be more comfortable fitting that definition, I'll do it. So
Well,
whatever.
I'm
we
going
have
to be
an
honest
opportunity.
about it. If there wasn't the property setback problem, we wouldn't be having that hearing on it.
Right, right.
So that is the one you can do. You may have to try to buy more land. That is always an option. If you had that extra footage, we wouldn't have this hearing.
So it turns into the building isn't an issue then.
You didn't have a permit. We can't grant a variance. I think Amelia had made the point about if you had gotten the permit and located it where you out within the grounds on that facility, we wouldn't be having this hearing.
So okay, so as you would call it, the shells, that would be just fine, you're saying, if it wasn't built within 13 feet of the property line.
That's probably right.
Okay.
We wouldn't be having a hearing if it had that. Am I right? I think
Well,
that's,
I think they would have,
we would still have on the other building,
What about a
but
dwelling on a
would have also
quarter?
been
but it's.
reviewed what was being built and it could deal with it then. Go ahead.
But the essence of it is when a lot of the reasons for this variance is because of what you did. It's not something that was there before.
What are our remedies?
As I stated, the one he can do is try to buy some additional land to get the setback requirement met.
What you said, the neighbor or township would like to have it removed?
Yep. Two of the township supervisors of Mount Prairie thought the best thing, and we're in the crosshairs because if we let this happen, there's gonna be more of this coming.
I talked to our attorney and he said, well, you know, the ordinance says that you can charge 3 times
Yep.
the normal charge for the services, building permit and Board of Adjustment. I don't have my notes here, and then I screw this up. Building permit is $300 times 3 is 900, but he's paid 3 of that already, so that would be 600.
I'll just clarify that. So when I was talking to you, that was the maximum amount. I wasn't exactly sure what he had paid. His was $232.50. So at, you know, if we were to double that again, that'd be $465 additional.
Okay, and the Board of Adjustment,
That's $500.
okay, and he's paid 5 already, so that'd be
Yeah.
$1,000. Depending on how far we go with that, that is the deterrent. I would guess, I don't know, I mean, you know what it is, it's 600, what would you say it was? How much?
$465 for the building permit additional, and $1,000 for the variance additional. We were
Okay.
triple vote.
All right. Then we can charge $465, or we can charge $1,000, or we can charge $1,465. To me, they are the remedies. Remove it, charge $465, $1,000, or $1,465. And then you will have to decide what you're gonna do with that.
$1,465 isn't enough of a fine. I don't know what we could charge, or how could we remedy this? You have any ideas?
I pay the fine and stipulate whatever you want me to do with the shed. We can put it in there, or if, I really would love to have the bathroom in there, but if you want me to remove the windows, you want me to never, keep it a cement floor, all that stuff that would make you feel comfortable having it be an agriculture building. And it'll show everybody that it's not a shells. And I'll do whatever you tell me to do. And I'll let you come in and inspect it whenever you want to inspect it, or do whatever you want to do, and put the stipulations of what you would feel comfortable with making it an agricultural building. And you can give me the fine. It's a lot different, obviously, building than I wanted and envisioned, but and it's become so expensive for what I'm going to get, and then the use out of it. This is a big deterrent from somebody else doing it. Amount of time and energy and money into what I'm going to be getting is ridiculous already.
I think that's reasonable. I don't know what we want to do to make it, to deter it from being a future residence. I like what you said, that there should be, it makes sense if it's a utility building that you'd have, I mean, you can have big sliding insulated, garage door out there. But something that makes it look like a utility building versus a residence.
And I didn't even think about it. It's my dad that wants the woodworking stuff, and I didn't even think about a lot of that, how to get stuff in and out of there. But
And the bathroom is small, so that's probably, discourages, many people anyhow. What do you think?
Well, I still have, the reality is most of this is, when we look at our findings, I have a hard time saying yes to number 3. period.
Well, I wonder,
And
is
if
there
we
a way
deny
we
any of
can-
those, we
is there a
are,
way
We
you
we
get
can change
around?
the findings if you guys want to draft different findings.
well, I mean, it's not your input, it's what's here, what is in our ordinance. We have to approve those findings. They are part of our
Well,
ordinance.
do we not have the discretion to okay this?
I think you can look at the finding in the context of potential revision proposals, something that may start to work here a little bit is send something that says, okay, we got a door, we're looking at this, and we can evaluate that based on your most recent submittal, that all of a sudden the verbiage starts to get a little less awkward.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not quite there, but on the other hand, it's not,
Well, and I think I don't want to see you tear that down. And we're probably not going to be popular with the fellow you were talking to. But, I think, you go so far and then you ease off and say, this is a reasonable compromise. I would, I guess I would go for the $1,000 fine only. I guess that's, majority rules here. Well, I'm assuming we're gonna move on with this.
yes. You want to continue with the
Pardon me?
findings, or-
Pardon me?
Oh, sorry,
Well, let's go through the findings
Okay.
and then at the end, we have to add to that.
Okay,
so I'm just trying to procedurally.
Yep. thank you.
Okay, all right, so subdivision 1, findings required, I'll go through both. The existing building on east property line, tear down and rebuild. The variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of official control. In staff analysis, the land use plan encourages development at or near existing developed locations and rehabilitation of existing infrastructure. The area adjacent to the structure was the original homestead location.
And if you guys want to modify language on these two, you're welcome to that. They're just provided
Yeah.
as a guidance. So
Right. It's just.
Or your staff analysis is, yeah, our reasoning is what we really have. We can use the staff analysis, but we can put in our own reason, whatever we vote.
Sure. Well, and then for
It-
what it's worth, your input, we'll write down.
Right.
If you want us to revise, we're there.
Yeah, well, we get so in the habit of accepting the analysis.
Right, right.
We should be
Adding our own. On this, any discussion that we have before, if we want to just use staff analysis on number 1? So I'm personally comfortable with that on that one.
I am as well.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed, same sign. That part is, number one is passed. Well, number two,
Okay. There are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls, and the proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Staff analysis, the new existing structure is partially complete and was intended to replace a failing ag building. The proposed use of the structure is a day-use ag building to include a bathroom, small kitchen, storage of tools, and woodworking workshop. This cannot be a dwelling or used for a residence at any point.
any comments, concerns? I'm a little bothered by economic considerations alone cannot be used due to the practical difficulties, because some ways we are looking at that. The economics is a big factor, why we're maybe saying okay to it.
well, on the other hand, we've struggled with that sentence for a lot of times. So many of them are, kind of, it's hard to say when you get in a variance, that it isn't a significant variance, because we've struggled with that before.
So I'd like to add to that, and there will be no beds in that house. Shed.
Well,
No,
let's
this is just on the findings. We can't.
Let's
we're not
add that in
adding-
the end
At
as a
the end,
requirement.
if we get to allowing a variance.
Okay,
that's
so
when
Otherwise,
we
it's
deal
gonna
with
get
it.
we
lost
could
in here.
change this.
We'll get lost in here.
Okay.
I,
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Number three, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. The staff analysis, the illegal parcel split, which created two non-compliant property lines, was completed prior to the applicant's ownership. One of the non-compliant structures was removed, and there is adequate space to have relocated this structure. But the applicant states he contacted the zoning office regarding permitting this structure and claims he was told he could proceed without a permit because he was replacing a structure in kind.
And I guess I'm one who does not necessarily agree with that setup, the analysis. Most of the problem is of his own creation, because he didn't thoroughly check out what was permittable. The old building was not, we don't know for sure whether it was actually in compliance or not, because it's no longer there to verify.
Yep.
And I really have a trouble saying yes to this.
what can we modify? My thought is you could take off the last, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 words. And not created by the property owner.
But if I remember right, that is our ordinance. These languages are specific to our ordinance.
But you're saying we can modify it, is that true?
Not the finding.
Not the actual finding.
The staff
Our
analysis.
I see,
reasoning only.
okay, all right, sure.
Staff analysis we
Sure.
can, but not the findings.
Yep, okay, the verbiage of the finding itself, okay.
So, I don't know, that's where I am.
Mhm.
I really have a hard time saying it isn't the owner that paid the problem.
I mean, we do have aerial imagery. I don't know if that, I have multiple years on there. And the building is in a very similar location.
Right. I mean, it's, but again, I can't verify it one way or another. No one
We
has
can-
ever measured it. See, we know that the old other one on the other side is not in compliance. So the probability is this one was not in compliance also. But that doesn't mean when he tore down the building that he couldn't have measured and made sure it was in compliance.
Right, yeah, that's correct. The old one was not in compliance. I did measure that. So, but that's ideally how we would have dealt with it.
So I can put in my own analysis.
Right, we can all do that.
I'm
And
just
I think that's
struggling with
probably the way
verbiage.
we'll have to deal with this.
I'm struggling with verbiage. Is it something to the effect?
And so we may want to do just a roll call vote on this to start with.
Well, but we can,
And with each of us, like we used to do with when Aaron was here, where we each gave our reason.
yep. And I'm thinking something like, I don't know the first part of this, but it'll be dealt with in the what is it, the conditions at the end. I don't know.
The error by the property owner can be dealt with in the conditions created afterwards.
That's a good verbiage.
You want that added on to your findings?
I want that as my finding.
Oh, okay.
So you're saying yes to the findings with that reason.
Yes.
Okay. And I guess I'm going to be a no on the findings. I just think too much of this was created by the owner. And it would have been so easy to have totally avoided any of the problem.
Well, okay. What about this? Comes back with a proposal with a revised plan that variant, well, yeah.
The only way I see a solution to that part of it is to approach the adjacent landowner and buy some land. And then we don't need a variance.
But that's not the issue. Variance is not the issue. Well,
Yes, it
we
is.
can, yes, it is. Okay.
It is.
Okay, but the
Technically,
real
it is
issue
the
is,
issue.
pardon me?
That is the issue.
Yeah.
And the issue in this findings is, in my way of seeing it, is most of it is a creation of the landowner. It wasn't the prior building that created the problem because that was totally removed.
I guess I was thinking some verbiage to the effect that while a postured kind of statement, while we believe this has led to this, these additional measures have been incorporated to try and alleviate
I see what you're saying. I think what I'm saying is, put in there that we feel that the landowner was at fault here in order to turn that in the future in our, with their
it.
stipulations.
But based on the amended proposal, there have been mitigating factors that have and believe me, I don't want to put words in your mouth here. I'm just.
Yeah, I
I'm just
struggle
throwing
with it.
something
I
out.
mean, this is, I've
It's
looked
not-
at this for a long time and
Yes.
this is, there've been more than one night of not sleeping good.
My view of it is we've worked out all our differences. Maybe you haven't, but we've worked out, he said he'll pay the fine, we'll get the stuff here, and now we gotta get through the technicality of the variance. Like, what's your first name? Greg. Like Greg said, if it wasn't for all this peripheral stuff, that would have been a slam dunk. So to me, it's not the variance, it's the other piece. And I'm at the point now, I'm trying to get through the variance so we can finish it up. And you have to get to all of them, don't you?
Yep.
All of them has to be a positive. Well, what do you say we come back to that one?
Okay.
Okay.
Number 4, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. The staff analysis, this building could have easily been relocated had a building permit application been submitted. This would have made the applicant aware of the non-compliance before construction commenced. However, a variance would still have been required to bring the existing building along the western boundary into compliance after the illegal split.
I have the same problem. I mean, basically staff analysis, the first sentence says what I believe.
If we can, I mean, is
I
there
guess
anything there you disagree with? Variance
the
will
building
still
could have
have
been easily relocated with a building permit application submitted,
Yeah. I
but
agree
it
with
wasn't
that.
done.
This would have made the applicant aware of the non-compliance before construction commenced. I believe that. I agree. However, variance would still have been required to bring the existing building along the western boundary into compliance after the illegal split. That's true. Each one of them, right.
But if he would have went to the zoning office, they would have told him ahead of time, you gotta move this.
And my problem is, and I stated this more than once, should be dealing with is, oh, there's no construction starting. That it's an open building lot. And where would I vote then?
But that's not the case.
And that's not the case. That's the problem we're dealing with. But where would you do it if that was nothing? You would say, well, you could relocate it and have it where we don't have this hearing.
So you're advocating we tell them to tear it down?
I wish that was a different alternative, but I really struggle because it seems so much of this is just totally ignoring any of the zoning regulations that are out there. Should have been obvious when you asked someone about septic that you needed a permit, because you need a permit for septic.
Well, I think our main purpose here is to discourage starting without a building permit. I'll bet you a lot. Somebody would, I'm sorry, Greg. Somebody would ask you, Greg, what do you think? I'm gonna try and build something without a permit. You think that's smart? I mean, to some extent, we've accomplished that.
Now, I don't know, I haven't heard much, Wayne, what your thoughts on any of these?
Well, I'm with you. No,
It's kind of, that's the way I am. I just, right now, I see no problem way on these.
we got rules.
Is another option to move it 17 feet? Is that?
Well, if you owned enough, so we didn't need the variance, like technically, we wouldn't have this on that building.
Well, you own enough you could have,
If you went, yeah, if you had moved it 17 feet further over, it wouldn't have been an issue.
So you're saying
Yeah,
maybe that'd make that an
And that's
option.
the other option that I see as the only one is to try to talk to the neighboring landowner to buy additional property.
But if we move it further onto our property, so we're 50 feet away, and I mean, it's taking it down.
That's a
that
slab, isn't it?
13. Yeah, but would that be part of the building then? I mean, I'm just trying to find a solution. This is not an easy solution because it's gonna cost as much as building a shed to
So-
move it, but,
The slab becomes your driveway.
okay.
If I follow what you're getting at.
Yeah,
In other
so we
words,
leave the
but
slab,
you're-
I mean, or we
you'd
can break
leave-
it up. if
you'd
we-
leave the
if we
slab.
need to. It doesn't do us any good.
Turn it
anyways,
into
but-
driveway.
You turn it into your driveway, you know, and then you'd add.
Does
I
that
don't know
have
that
to be
that's-
50 feet back, the driveway?
Slab, no.
And
So we kept the, I mean, and this is not an easy solution, so
No.
I hope that this is all the way at the end of the worst possible outcome. I'm hoping that you would come up with this, having us move it, because I'm sure it'd be.
That ain't much different than tearing it down.
I know, I understand, just.
But even so, if we came up with that as an outcome, or, I mean, somehow we have to get through this, whatever the outcome is. I mean, so if we're not able to say yes to any of these, no matter what we put in there, then what happens?
Then it's turned down.
So we take 17 feet off the building. I mean, that's.
Oh, there you go.
You know, there's one way.
Sure,
Start
sure.
You
changing
came up with a
direction,
solution.
Do a double roof line. So you're going one direction, then all of a sudden you turn part of the building and you butt into the existing part that's beyond the 17 feet, and you change your roof line direction, pour a slab, and so then all of a sudden you got an L-shaped building.
Or can't we just make the same exact
Sure,
rectangle? and just-
depending on.
Not just, obviously, yeah,
Depending
that's
on how-
expensive, but at least it would.
But your point about the 17 feet, I mean, technically, that is all we're dealing with here.
Can we get through this and do that? I mean, that is not
Right
the
now, to
solution I
me,
want.
it's-
What then?
My problem is, if you had gotten a permit, you would have had it in a location, you would have been right. Most of the problem is your creation. And our findings say we can't give a permit variance when you created the problem. The previous one, I mean, yeah, he did some putting a retaining wall up, but the house was there long before he bought that house.
That's not our, let's not get into that.
Yeah.
Let's
I
not
mean, that
even
building
talk
is
apples
completely
and
gone.
oranges.
Yeah.
I mean, you were able to vote through
Thanks a
that
lot.
with the verbiage that was in there pretty easily,
Um,
right? Well, you were able to make that work, and he plowed he bulldozed with no permit into the side, and he at least should have known better than me, right? But that, right?
I guess I want to. Let me get myself in trouble here. I want to look at it also from the view of Houston County. They couldn't change that for 17 feet, so he had to spend thousands of dollars to move it. I think that, we forgive people doing stuff wrong. That's part of what we do here. And you're saying, we got to hold him, and we talked about it, he's gonna get a fine, he's willing to do that. And we're not willing to bend at all. And I don't think that's where we, as a committee or the county, wants to be. I don't think, I don't think that these
Yeah,
these two have, examples.
right.
I thought we was negotiating.
What
And
did
if
we
he
do?
moved that 17 off of the side that's in the variance and moved it over to the other end, we can do that.
So what did
There's-
we give?
we itself,
If we make a move at 17 feet, what did we give? That's not a negotiation.
he's complying with the ordinance.
We're trying to make this work.
Well, and this takes me back to how many times, for whatever reason, they're not in compliance, like tonight. We bent that one, you know, it said that it was the result of a poorly designed property split. Well, why didn't we tell that guy, move it? And I've sat through a lot of these and they say, yep, I've had people work with co-workers, they said, well, they were going into that and they're assuming we're gonna okay this because it's already done, blah, blah, blah. And that's the way it is. We can figure a way to do this. And
So
that's-
can we see
I'm
how
gonna
number five,
let it go on.
number 5 and 6
Sure.
would be,
Just move on
if
to
they,
those for
they
now.
work?
Number 5, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. Staff analysis, ag sheds are commonly found in the agricultural district. The new construction project will improve property values and mitigate safety concerns with the old structure. There are plans to install a septic system to treat wastewater.
Okay, comments, discussion.
So that's legal.
I think so.
What, the septic system?
Yeah, in an ag building.
Yeah, we often, we permit a lot of septic systems for egg buildings.
No, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
I'll go along, but I still say it looks more like a recreational cabin than the ag building. But I will say yes.
I think we should make that more like a formal vote, so.
Oh,
Yes, please.
well, no, I mean, basically, these are, yeah, I will say yes to the variance number 5. Agree with staff analysis and still will say the proposed building looks more like a resident, recreational cabin than an ag building.
A qualified response.
Yep, that's all I'm doing.
Understood.
And I don't know what the others have said, yes or no on number 5.
Yes.
I heard yes, but
Okay. Let's do number 6 and
Yes,
right, number 6, the request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district. Permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation or permit standards lower than those required by state law. Staff analysis, the request is to allow a reduced side yard setback for an ag building that is replacing a dilapidated ag building. Ag buildings are permitted uses in the agricultural district, and this is an area variance. There is no floodplain in the vicinity.
I agree with staff analysis. That's,
I agree with staff analysis.
I agree with staff analysis.
so then we get back to number 3.
What was the verbiage for my comment?
I have, that the error will be dealt with in the conditions.
maybe we should look at the conditions to see if 3 and 4 would work.
We can, yeah, if you want to go to conditions and. I don't know that I
Yeah,
drafted any. so
yes, that's what I was just thinking, what do you got?
What, I mean, it's up to you, put like that language in there.
I mean, yeah,
So the two variances that the site is looking at was a variance of 17 feet for an existing building. Variance of 32 feet from existing building on the west property line.
What is this?
The west
existing
property.
Building on the west property.
Oh, we have that as a
That would
separate
be a separate.
finding. We can go through that one later.
Oh, okay.
We're dealing only with the one right now.
All right, all right.
What sort of conditions would you guys look at?
well. Would this help if you came back with a different proposal and you tabled it till reviewed your proposal? I mean, we'd look at it right away, I promise. We won't sit. on it.
And then come back and do this again. I don't know if I can handle this again.
That's what I was afraid. Trying to make it easier so for the verbiage.
Yeah, I don't know if I can
How do
handle
you
this
do it?
again
Fair
either.
enough, okay.
Yeah, I don't.
But don't take it away too far.
The,
Um. Boy, I'm trying to think of how we want to.
well, would you consider something like laying out a sequence of events? Saying like, you shall look at getting additional property. If that doesn't work, you'll look at this, you'll look at this. In other words, make a good faith effort to do a sequence of things.
But buying increased properties is gonna work. It's a thin,
Well, I know that I looked at the Beacon maps. It's only a 200-foot wide stripe
Yeah.
between the next and the next residency.
Well, I just throwing out ideas of.
I know that's a different
200
one.
Yard?
200 feet,
200 feet
roughly,
wide.
roughly, if you go by Beacon maps.
Yeah. Who has it?
Using that. I don't know how, that's not 100% accurate.
Austin Reinhardt,
Maybe that'd be cheaper than 5.
well, but
But
it
just buy the whole property.
no,
It's a lot
Oh,
of
I
property.
see.
It's thin, that's his entrance.
His entrance is all it is.
Okay, then he ain't gonna do
I
it.
take away his entrance.
Let me just start, do the other extenuating conditions. Um, finding, let's go. Finding 3 and 4 are accepted or something like that. And then the extenuating conditions are the fine, and what was there, another something? Oh, look at that building. But,
Well, I mean, you could certainly put in the conditions, I mean, and you can absolutely comment, on any of the findings, and we can certainly change what we've done.
well, we don't have to even accept the staff analysis. We can
Right,
Right.
completely redo our
absolutely.
Mhm,
Response to the finding, yes.
That's if we want to do it though. If we have the desire to do it.
Well, right.
So under the conditions, like if you put some 3 and 4 are remedied by the conditions, we feel that the landowner was at fault. but we're willing to remedy that by the conditions set forth.
There you go.
And then
Yeah.
the conditions would be the fine, and then any specific stuff that that you would make you feel comfortable that it's
Yeah, I
just
mean,
an eight.
it's,
As long as there's a bathroom, anything other than that, I mean,
you know, the,
Did you get that wording?
well, I mean, okay, there's something along the lines, it's not disputed that certain things occurred, and you would elaborate all those, and then you can qualify it to the effect of something along that mitigating factors have been incorporated that are as follows. And these address, and then you're able to get after, you know, a number of the things that go along with it. So in other words, that's a mechanism where you're using the conditions to say you have met the findings all the way through what is specified. in the
These
ordinance.
findings are met by these conditions.
By these,
The conditions
what's the
for
word
a
I'm looking
variance.
for?
And, but, and then
we put the
but you
conditions
also have the
on.
qualifying language at the beginning to say that it's not disputed that this occurred. And so
Right.
you have that in there too. So at the end of the day, you know, when somebody else does come in and tries this again, then you go, well, wait a minute. Start reading what's going on here.
although we feel that the landowner was completely at fault, we stipulate that these are remedies by specific conditions of the.
You know, I mean,
variance.
we can come up.
You should be on there.
And what are you willing to offer?
Well, yeah,
Well,
I mean,
that's
right.
basically
right
right on,
on.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's the mechanics of it, but now you're at the hard part of what are you willing to do?
What do we,
So what are the, before you can determine whether you're comfortable with that language, we have to figure out what the conditions are, right?
Exactly.
And so.
The windows gotta come out.
other than
Which
the lower
windows?
levels is not a problem, in my opinion, upper level.
Upper level.
That loft just looks, that's where it really appears like you're preparing that for a living.
Yeah, okay, I can see that.
It looks like that's gonna be a bedroom, because my neighbor has a building, a shop with his living quarters
Yeah.
as a permitted in. His bedroom is, he's single, so he doesn't have use the upstairs bedrooms, but there's room upstairs above that part, 3 bedrooms with windows and everything up there. So
No,
I know
I
what
s-
you're talking
I
about
see where
there.
I see where you're coming from, I do.
Yep.
That wasn't, I mean, we were gonna have a bunch of deer heads and use it for storage and stuff like that up there, but I see what you're getting at, especially with having the windows there.
Yeah.
That we don't,
The beauty of a sheet metal exterior is it's pretty fast to go right over the top of that, you know, when you pull the window.
so we leave the windows in and just,
Well, no, you leave
The framing doesn't have
frame
to
in.
change.
Oh.
You leave the frame in, you just insulate it and, you know, throw another sheet over the top. And you're,
Okay.
and you're out the door on that. So,
would that help? If we get rid of the windows, the upper level windows?
Upper level, I'm not worried about, I mean, lower level windows are no problem. I've got them in my wood shop.
you maybe even take some of your windows from the top and put in more windows on the first floor.
There you go.
Yeah,
So you're gonna waste them.
that's a good idea. Okay, no upper floor windows. Do we need a garage or a garage door or a sliding barn door? I think I might, talking through it, I might want to do that anyways.
I mean, I think whenever I've seen accessory buildings anyplace around, just drive around.
It's
Yeah.
not, it's not.
You will always
impossible.
see a garage door.
It's,
Even if it's separated from the rest of the building, it makes sense.
there are designs that are pretty good about keeping vermin out. I have exactly the same
Those
situation.
things, I don't know about you guys, I mean, you live in the same area, you have to have the same issue, but they're ridiculous.
But there's a box. I've seen a box that can be built around the tracks that will actually keep the door running in the box.
Okay,
And
We're talking about the sliding doors?
no, if you did a roll up,
Oh, a roll-up one.
you know,
Yeah.
a sectional roll up is the correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yep.
With just a garage door.
It's basically just the garage door with the tracks, but what you run into is that they have to bounce around because of the wind and how it flexes, otherwise they'll get stuck. So what you do is you put they put a box around it, and it stays inside there, and then.
Oh, I
and
got
then
it.
it
So it can
bounces.
move, but it won't.
It's basically got a double gasket. It's got a gasket on the
Whatever
door,
keeps the mice out.
and it's got a gasket on the sides.
Okay,
You
so
know,
does it matter, so the garage door or like the sliding barn door, does it matter to you guys in there? Either one of those is fine?
Either one, I would, if I were doing it, I'd have a garage door.
Yeah,
Opening size, or like size of it, rather than leave it up.
Right, that's probably
I
more.
guess I.
Okay,
The size is, just a
I
standard
think
garage door to
you'll
me.
like,
It's
you'll
all
like
it's-
the garage door a lot more than a slider.
okay,
oh,
so remove upper windows, and, entrance door must be the width of a standard garage door.
Well,
At least some entrance, so
You
you,
know.
I mean, to me, it makes sense if, no matter what you're
I
doing,
mean,
if you're.
basically what people usually have is they have a service door, like you've got right now, you don't need to change that. And then you would just put a header in and you'd add a garage door. You
Okay,
know, and I mean, and
yeah,
usually,
them roll-ups are more if you get restricted headroom, right?
right,
You
right.
can get a regular garage.
You can get,
door.
you can regular
Regular
garage
garage
door, and
door.
that, and you can add windows to it. I mean, you can make really neat garage doors.
Mhm, yeah, with
And-
windows in them
And we're willing to certainly do this to say that we realize ordering one of those is a total bugger. So in the meantime, you could build something in and then make it temporary, and then when the door comes in, you install the door.
okay,
Because you
I just
probably
put one in, did a good job. I didn't do it myself.
yeah,
Give you a.
what'd you use?
Somebody in Winona, Don's Doors.
Oh, it's the doors, you got it.
So
Did-
minimum of like 6 foot.
I think
Standard garage door.
I would say at least
Eight foot is
you
enough.
want 8 foot, you don't want.
You want an
7
8 foot, no
8
matter.
foot will get a pickup
Yep.
I put a 10 by. 10
Barely
in.
if
I
it's a
love
1-ton.
in.
It wouldn't,
right,
you'd
but-
have to fold the
but-
mirrors in.
Really?
Yeah, you
Okay.
need, realistically, you'd want an 8 by 14 or an 8 by 16.
Okay. Anything else that you guys would feel more comfortable with?
No beds, no bedrooms.
No beds. That's, yeah. that's easy.
Find a bed in there coming after.
Well.
What's
and then-
that?
and then what about an
Find a
as-built
bed
when
in
it's
there.
done?
Coming after you.
What about an as-built when it's
Oh,
done?
Lord, I don't want to be in the.
In other words, a
that side of that.
documentation to say how it was done with photos and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
an as-built.
Well, we would.
Yeah, I didn't understand what you were talking about in first.
What, Amelia?
We could, we don't typically do, well, we would do a certificate of compliance on the building permit. I guess we don't typically do them as part of the variance process, but we could just make a note, I guess, in here that staff would complete a certificate of compliance checking these factors. And then you guys can name what you, normally we would check
Exactly.
zoning standards, which was our setbacks. Mostly for wells, septic and road and all that. That's what we would go to do for certificate of compliance, not necessarily inside. Unless we're doing like the bathroom side or something. But if there's certain things you would want us to look at, you could just.
Yeah, I just suggested in the sense if it helps.
Sounds good.
You know, and instead of a kitchen, you could have a grill or a hot plate, maybe,
Okay.
no kitchen.
Well, typically a
yeah.
microwave is, a microwave, I think my son was saying he was at college at Crookston for a while, northern Minnesota. Up there, you couldn't have a stove in an ag building,
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
but a microwave, yes.
a refrigerator, we'd like that. That's where we want to do some of the deer processing. And so
That's
we'd
where you
like to
put-
have a counter and
that's where you put beer.
and put beer. That too. We have to have 3 beer fridges. I'll put it in.
But refrigerators are not, that's not a problem. I mean, that's going to be pretty standard.
Right.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
I mean,
The other side of it is when these guys see kitchen, then they start thinking of, a typical kitchen's like 7 or 8 circuits.
Okay.
So, I mean, we're talking a lot of wiring. If you don't have that wiring in there and you're just talking a microwave and stuff like that, then all of a sudden, that starts to make it a lot harder to be like a house.
Right.
That's a good point.
very good point.
So you're detuning it.
Okay.
How many outlets are you figuring? For the pole shed. You'd have a lot in there.
Yeah.
Well, you're talking, if you're talking woodworking, you're gonna need quite a bunch.
Should it happen every 10
Because
feet?
I know I have in my little shop.
But even
Mine is
just in a, just in
what
a,
you have.
We only
Yeah.
have 150, yeah.
Really? Not 200?
No.
That's weird.
200.
Usually it's 100 or 200.
No,
That's weird.
so we need probably a 20 amp, 240, 30 amp, 240 maybe. Couple of 20 amp circuits for, well, microwave, and one probably for
you
refrigerator.
can put a lot more amps on there than the box is rated for, because you're not gonna have all of them working at the same time. I mean, you can end up with quite a bit more. I'm not an electrician, but, pardon me?
Well, yes, how many outlets? I'm just-
Yeah, it's hard. But if you're doing anything on the other part, you're gonna have to have a bunch of them anyway. So
Yeah, no, it's just that,
in that
Right.
kitchen area, there's more of the concern, I
they-
think.
yeah, that all of a sudden that's a lot more house with, you know. as
We'll have to
opposed-
talk to the inspector. Is it
Right.
a kitchen at that point? Because kitchens have specific rules.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If it's not a kitchen.
Yeah, and if you have an island, you have to have an outlet.
Okay.
Yep.
So-
Oh, we bought one off the internet. We bought a kitchen from an old house that was they're redoing or whatever. We just.
So anyway, but I mean, these are just all examples of what we're talking about.
Okay.
To make it seem a lot more comfortable that what you're doing is not a house.
Yeah. And the kitchen one, I guess, is a little tougher to be very specific about it, got a gray area there, but easy to do I mean, no upper windows. Is there an upper window or is there not? I mean, that's an easy one to see, right? And
Yep.
to have a door and no beds and, is there anything else we put in there that's specific that?
Got a vacuum, it's gotta be a shop vac.
Well, okay, what about, what's your heat source?
Allowed to heat the dang place with furnace?
Oh, yeah, do the bathroom.
So you're looking at radiant floor heat? You already, I mean, you didn't do radiant if you poured the slab already.
No, that's what was there before though, a long time ago, but we got rid of, they had a big boiler and they had the tubing and all that stuff, but we got rid of
Okay,
it.
so
when we
you,
started.
so you, at least you didn't do that, so.
Right, no. I don't know. We haven't figured it out yet, but-
But heat is not something you can't, I've got it in my shop.
Oh, no, I'm not.
So I'm just saying that that's
Okay.
not something we can say you can't
No.
have.
Not at all. What I was just getting at was what they are or are not doing.
Yeah, I don't know what you've got in there, if you've done anything
That's-
under the
that's
slab
not-
or.
Nothing to the slab, no. No. All right. Anything else specific you want to put in there? So although we feel that the landowner was completely at fault, we stipulate that this is remedied by specific conditions of the variance.
Which one is that?
Well,
That's
just-
kind of basically, he's putting the
But I
condition.
mean,
Okay, that's
and
gonna
to-
take
and
care
I can-
of 3 and
and
4.
3 and 4 I can live with
to
because of
prevent this
variance.
from becoming
Restrictions
a dwelling.
placed on.
You know, I mean, there could be something along those lines that,
Mhm.
you know, you're reiterating your position.
So
Amelia, did you get that?
Not as well worded as with yes, but what are, so the conditions that you're putting on there are remove the loft windows, add a minimum of an 8-foot door, and then what were the items, you wanted a certificate of compliance completed, was there specific items you wanted checked outside of the normal, or were we looking for?
Well, compliance with the proposed activities. I mean, meaning the windows, the door. Those type of things.
So that's-
And not a kitchen, but a break area
So,
room.
Okay. Put no dining
I
room
mean-
and stuff or
Yeah,
no center island.
Could have something to make coffee.
That's right.
well, I mean, there's reasonable things to have in a break room.
Yeah.
And there are things
No,
you
it's-
would have that aren't necessarily in a kitchen.
Right.
I mean, microwave to warm up something that you had along.
Yep, but not
And a refrigerator to store some, maybe just having water available.
right.
A blender could be on the line.
All right, so
so
I guess if we can get those, you're saying basically we say yes to 3 and 4 with the conditions.
So for 3 and 4, should we just add at the end of those, the phrase,
Although we feel, you want me to read it?
Well, I think she's gonna just tagline on for 3 and 4 that it's referent to that.
Yeah,
To say that it's not disputed that the landowner is at fault, but the conditions have mitigated all concerns. And then we won't touch the conditions there, but they're gonna be in the
Right.
final.
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
So,
I can go along on that on number 3.
okay.
And maybe we should be getting a formal vote on number 3 then.
Yeah, roll call then is Ken,
I will go along with what you're saying on those conditions.
Larry,
Aye,
Wayne,
No, because I don't think we've done the conditions yet. We haven't talked about the fine. We gotta
Well,
make sure,
that, the fine is actually, by statute, that's part of it. It's gonna be there anyway, because you start building without a permit. The penalty, I mean, the triple,
In the grand scheme of things, it's not that much.
typically we would charge for the triple the building permit fee.
yeah. Well, it should be actually for whatever you needed, because he needed a variance. It should be
So
triple
put
the
in there,
variance,
triple
the variance.
So then you wanna add also then to triple the variance and building permit fees.
Yeah,
In total, less what's already been paid.
yes.
yeah,
What is
that,
the-
that definitely should be part
So
of
triple
that.
the 500 for the variance fee
That,
and the
yeah,
permit?
so it would be, at 1465 total.
Less what you've already got in.
No, that is already taking that into account. Is that what you guys wanna do?
That is what the rules are, I believe, so.
Well, we don't have to. That's the maximum we can do. I was going more for the Frederick, just a grand, but we group the, what are the rules? Majority rules.
I would do to me, the variance is what you're applying for, and that's where the one, the extra 1,000, no, that's what I would see it as.
If we were to, like, if he was not to have complied with this, you come in, apply for the permit, come in for the variance, excuse me. If you are in violation of the ordinance, and you'd be charged with a misdemeanor, which I believe is a $900 or $1,000 fee or fine at that point. So
What?
I guess that gives you any frame of reference.
Well,
Okay, I got it, go ahead.
what Amelia's getting at is, in the future, if this were to be used as a dwelling, then there's the potential for additional act.
Use that to measure what the fee would be here.
Yeah, I guess I was gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, I was using it.
We
more
weren't
like a
accusing you of
measurement.
that activity, what we're.
Right, so if we didn't get a permit of using it and you found out after the fact, and then we'd be charged with misdemeanor, and the fine would be $1,000.
But every day is a violation.
Oofta.
Yeah, it could potentially be used in that
Yeah, that's,
respect. So I'm trying to give you guys a. frame of
so
reference
would
when you
that go
determine-
forward to say he sells it to somebody else, that somebody else makes it build a house, a dwelling?
without,
Oh, yeah, that would.
There's
follow for
stipulation
anyone who
that follows
wants
with
to-
the
or who might
property now.
try to use it.
If that follows with the property, then I'm good.
yeah, because you gotta realize that with a lot of things, the definition of a violation is a day.
So what are you guys comfortable with the fine? Let's just.
I'm comfortable with the grand.
I guess I will go along with that.
So we'll say double the variance fee.
Yep.
Well, we'll say triple the fee.
The triple,
minus
it'd be
the-
it'd be a triple the variance fee.
Triple that minus what he's already paid.
I'd go along with the 1465, but I'm outnumbered. This is a democracy.
All right. Does that address everybody's concerns then?
Well, then we're down to 4.
Number
I
4 is the same way, I guess.
So on 3, adding in that final condition, how would, what's your vote on that then, Lee?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now
Okay, so number 4. You're good with, I read it.
And I will go along on the same,
And so you're
so the same
on the roll
conditions
call
are
on
for
that
that one
one?
also. I will agree with that.
You want a
With
roll
those same-
call on that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
So
okay.
it'll be the staff analysis as written, plus the statement, it is not disputed that the landowner is at fault. The conditions have mitigated all concerns. So Ken,
Yes,
Larry,
Yes,
Wayne,
Yes.
okay. So I think that concludes your findings then on the building on the east property line.
Right.
So we'll need a motion to adopt those.
I'll make a motion, we adopt them as presented.
okay, we have a motion to adopt the findings. Is there a second? I'll second it.
All right,
We have a motion to and second to adopt the findings. We need a vote.
Ken,
Yes.
Larry,
Yes,
Wayne,
Yes.
okay, so motion.
Okay, and then we should actually come up on this, do this one. Do we want to do the other one right away? The west building before we deal with the language of the variance?
We can,
I think that one is pretty much straight through that no one has a problem with.
Okay, I mean, just,
We may as well do the west
Okay,
property
all
building.
all right, so the existing building on the west property line, the first one is the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of official controls. Staff analysis, the land use plan encourages rehabilitation of existing infrastructure.
Any discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, number 2.
There are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls and the proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Staff analysis, the structure on the west side of the parcel was built in 1962 and its non-compliance was the result of an illegal split in 2001 prior to the applicant's ownership. The landowner plans to use the building to house larger equipment necessary for maintaining the property.
Questions, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Number 3.
The variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. Staff analysis, a previous landowner created the non-compliance by creating a parcel with a structure too close to the west property line. It is presumed the intent was to maintain tillable acreage on the adjacent parcel.
Any discussion, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay,
Number 4, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. Staff analysis, a variance is the only reasonable method to bring the existing building along the western boundary into compliance after the illegal split. It is a 62-year-old structure that the landowner does not wish to remove, and its compliance allows future permits to be issued to this property.
okay, any discussion, concerns? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Go on.
Number 5, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. Staff analysis, ag sheds are commonly found in the agricultural district, and this structure is the only one that remains from the original homestead. The non-compliance was the result of an illegal split, and the situation does not affect the public health, safety, or welfare of neighbors.
Okay, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Go ahead, number 6.
The request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district. Permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. Staff analysis, the request is an area variance to allow a reduced side yard setback for an existing ag building. Ag buildings are permitted uses in the agricultural district, and there is no floodplain in the vicinity.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, and we need a motion to accept the 6 findings.
I will make a motion. We accept the finding as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, that motion carried. And we'll move on to, there are 2 proposed motions for variances. Deal with the first one, this west property line first. Grant a variance of 32 feet for an existing building on the west property line. That's
I'll
one we
make a
just dealt
motion.
with. You make motion by Wayne. So
I'll
second,
second it.
second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carried. Now, the next one would be a motion to deal with the east property line of proposal to grant a variance of 17 feet for an existing building on the east property line. Well, it's not an existing building, it's a new building. It shouldn't be an existing building because it's a new permitted building.
Correct, I guess we
With the,
normally will use proposed building or existing. building,
Okay.
And this is kind of in between, so. You're welcome to change it, but
I understand where you're coming from,
Really don't
yes.
know, so.
Okay.
Being the structure was already started, that's why I used existing.
Existing building that's on there right now.
Yeah,
Physically,
With all the restrictions that are being placed that we have to discuss before.
yeah, you could say.
That will have to be part of the motion
with stipulated conditions.
Yeah,
with stipulated conditions.
the variance of 17 feet for a new existing building to the east property line with conditions, with the following conditions. Remove locked windows, add a minimum of an 8-foot door. A certificate of compliance shall be issued for the above conditions, and then that they triple the variance fee minus what's already been paid.
Yep.
Okay,
But we need also the reference back to them 4 and 5.
Right, the
Right.
findings. So it'd be 3 and 4,
Is that what it is, 3 and 4?
yes.
Those are all the
You don't need
conditions I,
those in the-
no, you don't need to
Well,
reference those.
that's
Those
true.
conditions that we had for
They-
3 and
it's
4
just
are
the
all
reverse.
part of it
3 and 4 are referencing the conditions.
that we put on here.
So we went.
So
we're going
all
the other
those
direction,
conditions
but
that
we're
we
getting at the
stated
same
have to
thing.
be listed.
Yeah.
Right. So
We should have had Sam here tonight.
you wanted to get this done?
So, sorry.
You met Sam
vote on
already.
that then?
Yes.
We haven't voted on that part yet. So I just kind of want to be sure that we understand we're voting.
Going the other way as well?
I don't think that's necessary
The what?
as far as referencing 3 and 4.
No, I don't think that's necessary. The conditions are for the variance,
Right.
not,
Right. And
we referenced,
findings are
the
used-
findings were because we
they-
used that
the
reference
findings
because we
have
were willing to accept the findings
based on
if we had those variances,
Right. the
concerns.
variances
Conditions.
and the subsequent conditions.
And there's a lot of trust involved here.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
there is that too.
So I think we pretty much know what the motion is.
Okay.
Did anyone have a question about that?
Do you want me to repeat it? Is that you?
No, they're talking about what
So
the.
The conditions
where they're
are
going with the
pretty
motion.
much,
Okay.
I think we all understand what those conditions are, so. Anyone have a question of you?
Make it look like an egg building.
Big letters, this is an egg.
Yeah. Get,
I'll buy a couple billboards.
get a tractor logo or something.
There you go.
Do we have the fine in there? Where's that?
That's what's in
That's
that.
in the conditions.
It's under the conditions that we put.
I didn't hear it when you,
Well,
Yeah, so the conditions are remove the locked windows, add a minimum of an 8-foot door.
yep,
3, a certificate of compliance issued for the above conditions, and 4 is a triple the variance fee.
yeah, I did hear
Minus
that.
what has been paid.
Yes, I did hear that.
No
Sorry.
beds,
there was-
no beds in there.
Do you want that under certificate of compliance?
I think that's more where that would be part of certificate of compliance.
Ensuring, to include checking for, beds.
Everyone understand what the motion is? No?
I believe so. I will
Any
make that
question?
motion. That
Okay, we have
motion. Motion,
motion, you have made the motion.
yes, as presented.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I think here we do a roll call vote right away.
You wanna-
Ken Anderson,
Yes.
Larry Hefner,
Yes.
and Wayne Runnigan.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, that takes care of that.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
We trust.
Thanks, guys.
We have one other thing to do with. We got to approve minutes of last board meeting.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Mother, she's from the Crescent.
Yes?
She's a Hafner.
Oh,
I'll wait till the end to tell you that.
what's her first name?
Margo.
Margot?
Yeah.
Oh, I know who she is. She's, what's her face's husband?
She's asking.
Huh?
She's asking.
Really? Hey, yeah, it's probably better later than.
Well, I didn't want it to seem like I'm trying to get this. They weren't related.
Good luck. Yeah, this is, I don't know if you've done planning commission, but this one is final. Planning commission has to go to the board,
Yeah,
I'll try to get the permit up here so we're not-
Okay.
right.
Good.
but the board of adjustment is final.
Okay, we have.
Oh, yeah, the minutes.
of Last board meeting to approve. Reviewed them at all?
Yeah, I
Any questions on them, or-
Any
I
questions?
reviewed it. There was a slight issue about when I was talking about what I tore down. The building I tore down was a chicken coop.
Yeah,
And then the one I put up was a hay shed.
oh, okay.
Not a
Change that
chicken
to
coop.
a shed.
I got rid of chickens a long time ago.
My daughter's got chickens, she loves them. Look.
Yep, sounds good.
All right.
Oh, I
Motion to
love
approve.
eggs.
Motion to approve with that change.
Yep. I make the motion. I approve.
Second,
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, no opposed, so that's it. Motion to adjourn, I guess.
Wonderful.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Anybody has a problem with it?
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Out of here.
Oh.